Good morning and welcome to today's live show. Today's date is April 23rd, and we're getting into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, nvidia, AMD, and Meta today. Looking around at all kinds of stocks, though. So when you come in, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see us every single morning as we do watch stocks every single morning live. And good morning as we trickle in. Remember that for the next 12 days only, you can get that course for $149 while volatility is ramping up. So wanted to put that out there. And then if you want those weekly ranges, go down and look at the link on the Patreon. Okay. So looking forward today as we get into the day. Well, first of all, I got to say, wow, I'm rhyming a lot. The girls aren't here this morning. So that means we're here to trade today. All right, we're here to trade. Let's go. Let's find some trade setups. Even if it means a day where we can be patient, it's still fun to look at these charts, right? So one thing I wanted to point out about the SPY is this pulling back at the end of the day, right, was able to cross over this MACD, but we're seeing that upward move. The important thing here for the SPY is actually to come up into this level and then see that as maybe some sort of resistance and hold up here by end of day. I think that's very, very important as we come into this liquidity zone over here, left head and right shoulder. Well, this is where that full completion of the cup would take place. So if we're able to build up to this and then we start to base out like this, maybe we could see some form of consolidation right here that leads to an upward surge and gets us into our first area, or maybe even gets us into our zone up towards 510. And did I say in my thumbnail, I got to change my thumbnail. I swear, my goodness, I think I already messed up on my thumbnail, guys. I meant to put QQQ and I think I put SPY. That is embarrassing. If SPY goes to 438, that would be kind of bad. So we might have to fix that real quick. But really, it is important to get to this area. If we're able to get to this area early on in the day, see that kind of base out, we actually could break through by end of day. And we have important earnings tomorrow. So we will be paying attention to structure as we head closer and closer to our weekly expected moves. But how are you guys doing out there? Is everyone doing good? I hope everyone's having a good time. Wanted to look for my live here. Let's go look at the live. Well, it should be here. All right, we're backing off this. We just fix this real quick. An edge. We're almost there. Edit title. There we go. All right, we're good to go. We're good to go. We're good to go. That looks much better. Much better. Much better, guys. All right, so moving forward through these charts, let me pull my chat up so I can see you guys. Beautiful day in New Orleans. We love to see it. Get some beignets. I've never had a beignet. Beignet? Is that how you say it? Beignet? All right, but I think the most important thing from the bullish side is actually getting past this level of 503. That actually gives us that opportunity to head higher, maybe get into this zone by tomorrow. We'll have to find out. But we'll pay attention to what stocks look like outside of this weekly range. Remember, that's all that is expected from the options market this week, even with the earnings priced in at this point. So as we do make upward moves, just pay attention because we could get some earnings that are good, some earnings that are bad. Mainly just want to pay attention to what has earnings tomorrow, like Tesla and things like that, and say, hey, maybe I want to trade something else with some structure. Good morning, JS, Paracosm, Scott, Naveed, Fabiola, David, John, Donald, and Matthew. Good morning. So when we go into the Qs, you kind of see the point where we need to break through, right? You see the resistance levels that we really need to break through. So if I was bullish on this, I actually would really like to see this get to this level, maybe retest it a few times, and then finally beat through that door, right? And then break to the upside. I think that would be a very, very, very good sign going forward. Notice this, the 15-minute hasn't rolled over yet. So if we do want to pull back early on in the day, that would make sense. Hey, we could pull back down to here. What would happen if we got outside of that range? Well, actually, we would make a huge 15-minute divergence. And this is where I'd be kind of convinced, hey, we're going to see some bullishness. The momentum's really telling us that some bullishness is going to come in. But then we have to pay attention because we have that Tesla earnings, okay? So if we're going to head lower, I'd look for divergence. If we're going to head higher, I actually think we have the chance to consolidate and then go up. If we start to obviously curl down from these areas, well, what's going to happen, right? 30-minute gets close to the center line. Remember, we like our 30-minute charts. Even if we get up to here and that curls over in negative territory, you most likely are going to see another push down in this overall move, and this is most likely all the bounce you get. But I'm more leaning towards this building up over throughout the week, right? Doing something like this, and then we see that ripped away later on in the week, maybe going into Friday, as we do get, I believe, Google earnings, maybe Google and a bunch of other stuff, Snap and all that good stuff. So what I wanted to show you was the individual stocks. Now, Apple was something we were paying attention to live yesterday, and the 30-minute is very telling. As we are at that center line, we are at a decision point. If we want to cross down, we can see that negativity come in, maybe see some sort of ABC pattern in this move to the downside. If you were going to go bearish on this, we were paying attention to the 15-minute. Remember, we were saying if that can cross over, that would be very, very, very bad, right? That would be very bad if it could cross over at that center line. Now it actually built back up. So you actually knew from this move right here, even with this bar, and I was like, okay, this looks like the downside is likely. Well, we didn't get the next confirmation bar. If we got that next bar, we would have flushed past this and we would have ended up lower. But the fact that we didn't cross over on this MACD, the momentum was able to hold into positive territory. So now you could see this roll down and roll back up. We could see it roll down and roll back up. But we want to pay attention to other signals. So now the 30-minute rolling over is going to be your confirmation of more downside, most likely taking out this low and going and making a new one. So if I was paying attention to Apple and it wanted to curl over and it held and it broke this low, I'd be paying attention to maybe even my weekly expected moves over on Patreon. Tesla, this thing has earnings coming out tomorrow, so be careful with this one. Remember, it doesn't really matter what the technicals look like. It just matters what that print is. Now, Tesla's been beat up for a very, very long time. It's a lot of people don't bet against Tesla. They don't bet against Elon Musk. And you're not necessarily seeing anything signals-wise that is like a great, great setup, right? We're not seeing anything really on the 2-hour or the 30-minute that looks great. So if we go into a 15-minute, I'm just going to show you how it's built up to the center line again, and we could see one more roll down for some basing out. If we can find some kind of at least little divergence to convince us the momentum's dead, Tesla could see a really strong move. Why can Tesla see a strong move? The daily. The daily is setting up another point of divergence down here, triple divergence. Yes, we did break out of this wedge so far, but actually Tesla's saying, hey, I can see a prolonged strong move if I get some good news and maybe even start to build some structure to the upside. So if this type of thing started to happen, I would say probably we are going to make a new high in the stock market and we're going to see some good earnings. But that's just an opinion. There's no data on that. You have to pay attention to what the earnings actually say. Now, I think what happens here is we come up to something like 180.92 and we get rejected. That's what I'm really leaning towards. I think we see a big move maybe, and then that starts to fade down. But that's all dependent on earnings. That's if we get good earnings, then we see that drop off most likely. So going through Amazon, this one trying to hold up at the bottom, Bollinger. And thank you so much for subscribing, AD. Appreciate it. Want to look at this on some shorter time frames. Looks a little bit flaggy, but I wanted to show you the cup and handle that could form at this level. Just on the small time frame here, we're seeing some cups and some handling, right? So we got this right here going on. We're starting to come up into this area. We tried it once, we dipped down. We're trying it again, we're dipping down. Now do we get that to go? Well, that 15-minute little cooked there, just a little bit. Not overbought by any means. We can keep going up from here, but usually this curling up of the MACD just kind of slowly over time is usually a sign that we're going to see some kind of pullback, some kind of drop. So just be cautious because we could come down to this area again before we want to do that. Or maybe this is just a left shoulder, right? You have to be open to multiple scenarios here. Maybe this is what's going on. So we have to pay attention. What can we pay attention to? 30 minutes going to be right by center line. So 30-minute right by the center line for Amazon. If this thing curls over, you're most likely heading lower. Where do I think we head to? Well, I think this 166.12 would be great for a test. I think it would be great to test this level. So if this rolls over, I actually will expect us to go somewhere down in this area down here between 166 and 170. nvidia, this one here, showing some strength, right? Showing some strength, able to curl up. 30-minute showing you some strength there, but the 15-minute still very close to negative territory. So if we start to use these zones up here as resistance at this point, remember, this is what we needed to break through to see further downside. We finally are able to really confirm outside of it. And then boom, we see that flush come in. So now we have the opportunity to do something like this. And maybe we're still going to hold in this flagging, right? So we do see the flagging that's going on here. Maybe we get that reaction up. we break down, get some reaction up, and then we break down again. So I would really just pay attention to my 30 minutes today, see if they're rolling over into negative territory for NVIDIA. One thing on the daily for NVIDIA I wanted to mention is when you see a big dropout, you like to test the 5. And what are we doing this morning? We're testing the 5. So when you drop far out of these Bollinger Bands, there's a lot of the time you get some kind of reaction to retest the 5 and then you flush again. I'm more leaning towards maybe NVIDIA actually coming and retesting the 50 because that would be in this zone and then seeing that start to fail. But we'll pay attention. It doesn't matter what I want to happen, right? It matters what's actually happening right now. You're testing the 5. You have a 30-minute that looks like it's going towards that center line. So if you cross over, you're going to see more downside, and then maybe you set up a divergence by end of week. AMD, this one has been looking weak, but now it's starting to break a little bit of trend, right? It's starting to break the trend a little bit, but still a little bit flaggy in this area. So we have to be cautious as we approach that center line. And maybe we want to curl over one more time. Remember, there's no divergence behind this move. So the momentum is still a little bit down, but it's trying to shift up. So if we are able to curl over here, yeah, you're probably going to see lower prices for AMD, right? We're probably going to see a divergence set up. So we want to see if AMD is testing anything as of right now. And look at that. It's at its 5. So what do? We drop way outside of it. We react back towards the 5, and then we can continue that selling from now on. If we're going to see positivity, you want to close today probably above the 5 and then see that reaction up to the 20. But I think this 30-minute rolling over is what you need to pay attention to for AMD. Meta, same thing, right? We're going up towards this area. Okay, we're coming up into a point that's very important. We're trying to fully close some cups, maybe start to head upward. What would we need to see from here? Well, I think it was the 2-hour curling up. Yeah, the 2-hour finally able to curl up. Okay, so if this is going to see positivity, right? So if these stocks are going to see positivity, they're going to see some strong moves on the 2-hour, but will that be able to hold in positive territory? I think we have a good shot to set up some kind of lower high on a lot of charts on their 2-hour charts. So same thing goes for Microsoft. Microsoft could even get a full retest. You could see a huge move here before earnings and then see if that starts to play out to the downside. So remember, Microsoft was the one telling us about all the daily divergences down here. So Microsoft telling you about that weakness well in advance. Little positioned here, Prince, right? So that comes down. Now we could see one more curl up. Remember, you're still in kind of 2 wedges here, or maybe even a channel at this point. So you could see that full reaction up. We could get a full reaction up, get another point of divergence as you have beat down. That would get you right next to negative territory. If that sets up, that is going to be a huge, fantastic position there. So I just wanted to point that out as we are opening up today. Let's switch up back over to Google real quick, show you guys what's going on here. Remember, this one's showing you that divergence right here. Okay, we see that on the MACD and RSI at the same time. Now we're getting this flatness of the RSI up here between these highs. Can we go push and make another one? Yes, we could make another little point up in this area, you know, with earnings or before earnings. So that's something to pay attention to. What can I watch? The 2-hour. The 2-hour curling up here is a very good thing because we could see this hit another point, which would give us a quadruple, if not quintuple, sextuple. Tons of divergences. The important part about this divergence, if it is able to confirm, is it's right by that center line. So you notice we dip into negative territory, but we don't remain there long. We curl up. Maybe now we curl back down, and this is the moment. So I'd really pay attention to Google up in this area. The problem with that happening is, what do you have right in this area? You have earnings, so that could be a reaction up or down. So just be very cautious with these stocks as they grab some higher levels at earnings. It can convince people, oh, it has to drop. It doesn't have to drop. Remember, earnings, 50-50 flip. If you want to follow the technicals here, that's perfectly fine. Entry point, if you take the course and things like that, which is 149 for the next 12 days. I think you have 12 days to get my course for 149 down in the description. I would just make sure to have a stop in place, right? Always have a stop in place. So if this ends up happening and you take something here, stop up here just in case, because, you know, we could see some kind of reaction up the next day. Hey, this opens up, it gaps up a little bit, and then you cross through that level, and then you're just losing throughout this entire thing. So as of right now, Google looking like it wants to head a little bit higher according to the 2-hour. Now, one thing about the 30-minute, I just wanted to mention, we could see consolidation here for Google just because we got kind of up here. Okay, now we want to get to those overbought territory. Maybe we want this 30-minute divergence up in this area. So if we get up to this level, I'm not expecting us to get too overbought. before earnings, but then earnings, we'll have to see what that 50-50 flip has in store for us. Looking at the SPY going forward, we're starting to see this move fade. Maybe we want to go into like a 5 minute, see if we're creating any structure. Well, the 5 minute telling you, hey, I can curl up right by positive territory. So, you know, the 5 minute telling you, hey, I can head higher here. The thing is, if it wants to head higher quickly right now, breaking out of structure, we may see an excited move out to this area before a big earnings like Tesla, and then that rips away. Only 19 likes. Oh no. Everyone liked the channel for me, but thank you guys so much for joining today. We're going to be watching stocks pretty diligently. The girls are already at Abuela's house, so we are ready to trade. Let's get into it. Who's got some trades they are excited about? Let me know. And if you're part of the Patreon and you're out there, I started a chat where you can kind of, you know, we can chat back and forth. Everyone can kind of chat together, ask questions. So just go to the chat section on Patreon so that you know that you're a part of it. Make sure you join that. Do the Qs have divergence on the 5 minute? Let's go look. Not just yet. You're about to break through this high. So this is how you know, like, hey, maybe some resistance is going to come in at that daily expected move. Maybe we fill this gap, right? Maybe we fill this gap. So remember that as we approach this area up here, and the SPY starts to approach this area up here, that's all the options market has priced in. So if we get outside of that, that would be huge. But as of right now, I think you have a good shot of making a triple divergence on the 5 minute. I think you have a good shot of doing something like this, breaking through, maybe seeing that monthly as some resistance. You base out again, do something like this right over here, and then you curl up one more time. You get a triple divergence on a 5 minute. Usually on the 5 minute, single divergences aren't the best, but triple divergences that can put you into negative territory are good to watch. 33, woohoo, Frankie, let's go. And 80 subscribed today. Good morning, Frank. How you doing, Ryan? Ooh, NVIDIA calls. Okay, we got NVIDIA calls. That's perfectly fine at this point. You just want to see, I just wanted to show how, like, we can do something like this. I could just clone that bad boy, and then you can see how we're still within some form of flagging, right? We're not necessarily seeing a solid buy up. So if you want to see extreme positivity from NVIDIA going forward, you want to see this. You don't necessarily want to see this slowly over time. You really want to see that upward move. Now we're starting to maybe see this at the beginning of that upward move. We'll have to see. But if we form some kind of divergence right as we touch this zone, it's not going to be the best, right? It's not going to be the best. So what I want to do is I probably want to pay attention to my weekly expected move. So where's my weekly expected moves? Well, NVIDIA's approaching it right now. So if we did go touch this zone, I would be a little bit worried for NVIDIA going forward. I would just say that. So what I would pay attention to, 2 hours able to curl up, okay. If this 30 minute rolls back down though, so your confirmation, there might be some more upside past that weekly expected move because you're part of the Patreon and you know exactly where the options market is pricing in NVIDIA to go up to throughout the week, right in this area. So Patreon, a very useful tool there. But if this curls up, you can see more positivity. Is that ripped away? Remember, something crazy can happen outside those moves. I would really pay attention to the 30 minute. I think you may see those this 5 minute divergence here. 30 minute may roll up a little bit more towards that center line, and then you see that just curl down just like this. And then maybe we either get that lower because you are pretty high up here. You do have a chance for a higher low at this point. If that does curl over though, you would say, hey, maybe I test this low. Maybe I go make a new one, make some kind of divergence before we see some more earnings out there. So just pay attention to that going forward with NVIDIA. You're approaching an area where it's the weekly expected moves at least are telling you, hey, you're going to want to take profits soon, probably within the next 10 points up from here. Apple broke down early on, but not able to curl over on this 30-minute MACD. So that is going to be huge, right? If this does not curl down, it does not confirm a second move down, well, now we have the opportunity to build up. So I would just pay attention to that going forward. Really looks like this 15-minute might curl over here, right? We might see it base out, go towards that center line, curl back up, and then we can see if some kind of divergence forms. This high isn't very high up on the MACD. So I'm more thinking that if we do see a bigger move from Apple, you maybe make that divergence in the future. I'm just wanting to state that. Maybe you make a divergence in the future or something like that, because this could just base out at this point, right? We could get towards that center line and then use this maybe as some kind of even double bottoming or something like that could take place. So we'll pay attention to this. Pretty much all you have to see is, can the 15 go negative? Can that 30-minute cross back over? So going back over to the Qs, this thing's starting to make an upward move. Maybe we do want to pull up a 5-minute, see if we have some weakness coming, and I think we really do. I think we have a moment where the Qs could actually react to that daily expected move early on today, and then we see it struggle throughout the day. But remember, if that struggles and still holds up at higher levels, right? When we do something like this, complete that cup, and then we actually see that go like this throughout the day, well, a lot of people might be convinced, oh, this is the sell-off. People are selling before the earnings. People are selling, and then that just reacts up the next day. You see it go towards that weekly expected move. So we are creating the structure to head higher. You're about to hit exactly where the options market expects in about, what, one more point. But good morning. Covered your shorts going long till 5,100, and I think that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I just would pay attention because you're most likely going to see some kind of pullback here with this little 5-minute divergence, just because this is a single 5-minute divergence that could form right at that move. This is where we actually want to get to if you're bullish, and you actually want some consolidation before you break through that. Maybe grab some liquidity a little deeper down towards 500 again. So we could actually see some kind of reaction up to the daily expected move, and then we could pull all the way back to 499 before we actually get that to bounce up, create that cup and handle scenario. You can see it right there on your screen. We really want to complete that here. That would also give you the head and shoulders in this area. So that's a very important spot. 503.42 going to be very, very important today. And you know now, if you see some kind of sell-off at the end or in the middle or end of the day, well, we could react up to here. Sure, that can sell off all the way down to 499, but watch out. Remember, the end of the day, we might get some rigged, the rigged last 10 minutes, the rigged 10, and then boom, that thing starts to go up by the end of the day on Tuesday today. Very good to pay attention, but just know, hey, if you're day trading or something like that, if you hit this level, it's a very, very good spot to take profit. That's why we give it out. It's very, very useful. Is Apple going up today since is hitting a strong support line? Apple doesn't want to break through this level. It really doesn't, because if Apple breaks through that level, it's like, where do I hold up next? And I would say next, you're most likely testing 157. So I do think Apple still gets some kind of reaction here, just to at least build up and then fail again. And then we can look for 157 area down here. Because if you just look across, there's not a lot to hold you up in here. The real point here is where all of this was rejected, bursted through, right? Rejected again. So there's a little zone in here that I would pay attention to with these highs if we start to break down a little lower for Apple. But for Apple, it allowed the, so this is a different way. It allows that 5-day to catch up, right? So this allowed the 5-day to catch up instead of actually going and getting like some kind of big reaction. So it didn't necessarily get a big reaction. Actually, the 5-day, when this bar was printing, was somewhere around up here, right? So we didn't get some kind of big reaction the next day to go test that. We actually saw that catch up. So it's catching up right now by moving sideways, but you're moving sideways, so you have to be open to this curling over on the 30-minute. I just would say that. You have to be open to this curling over at the 30-minute. But as of right now, you're starting to creep into positive territory, so if you reject the crossing, that will be bullish. Gold, something that I paid attention to. I actually traded gold. This was one of the trades I took. I told you guys I thought it was going down to 215. Where does it go to? 215. I take profit. I'm solid here. This looks very, very good. Now, I would say one thing, and I would probably look at an hourly, but the 2 hours is going to be good too. If the inflation play is still going to be here, remember that the GDP comes out soon. This is where I was thinking gold could make the next move higher. So if this wants to curl up positive territory, boom, we can see a good move here. Maybe we set up another point of divergence or something like that before this goes down. Oil looking forward too, not looking the strongest, trying to base out. It's really trying to, but is it actually going to be able to, because this 2 hour keeps wanting to curl over? If you start to break this low here, we can just look across. Well, these down here. So 80.37 is the real, 80.34 maybe is the real level you want to pay attention to, because if that gets some kind of reaction down, if you start to lose that, it can go a little bit lower, right? We can go down towards 79, down towards 78. So really this level of like 80.34, 80.30 looks like a pretty important area to hold above if you want to see another upward move in oil. If not, it's probably heading down a little bit deeper, and we'll have to see from there. But as the 2 hours been here for a long time, we want to look on the daily scale here. Daily is still in positive territory. You're trying to react off the 50 a bunch. You're seeing those buyers come in right here, right at these levels you'd expect. You just don't want to take out the actual low there. Then you can react down to the 200 and we'll talk. But if you start to close below the 200 here, you're going to be going negative, and maybe this is gone. So you can see how the trend has really changed so far. So that means, what if we do pull back a little further, get a reaction up, get a lower high at that point? So I think 84.72, if we can break above that though, that would be a good sign we're actually going to see a move higher for oil. Now, Bitcoin, we haven't looked at that in a little bit, so I wanted to pay attention. Look at the daily, just about to curl up into positive territory in a flag pattern here, right? So what could be going on here? All right, you see how this is a little bit lower, right? This is a little bit lower. So what if we actually break out a little bit up to here? People see it as a fake out, and then we dip down. We create some kind of head and shoulders. That would be the bullish way for this to go. I would really say that. I think that's the bullish way for this to go. If this is going to see some kind of negativity, you're already there. You're already in negative territory. So I suspect that if we're going to see negativity and break through this, it's probably going to happen in the next couple days. I think that will really want to break down, stay in negative territory. If it doesn't happen in the next couple of days and we see some positivity come in, well, you just want to make sure that this dip right here isn't going negative. I think if that starts to go negative, well, you're going to probably take out this low and you're going to start some kind of daily negative trend. So that won't be too good for Bitcoin going forward. All right, let's see if we're seeing any kind of reaction up to those daily expected moves, and it looks like we definitely are. It looks like we are. Look at that. We go touch the daily expected move. What happens? Well, resistance comes in right away. So this is where we're completing the cup. Let's see if SPY was able to complete its cup. I'd say it did at this point. So now we have the opportunity for some kind of divergence to rip us down. Look at that divergence. If that curls over on the 5-minute, that says, hey, I can reverse the trend here. So if this goes negative, you don't want it to remain negative. You want this to go negative for just like, 20 minutes or so, and then see that curl back up. That would be a good sign we're actually going to see an upward move by end of day. If we kind of fool around up here, fool around down, fool around back up, that actually is probably the best case scenario in my opinion. Data came out and the dollar dropped. And let's go look at the dollar just to see. Remember, guys, dollar dropping off significantly. So this here is really just saying, hey, I want to drop down. And if we look at the daily scale, we'll see if that pullback is coming. You see it's getting closer and closer to crossing down. I think you have a good chance if you're able to break down here below this 105.65 to go test that 20, okay? But the thing is here, if I just pull out and look at this on the daily scale, what does this look like to you? It looks like flagging. So dollar could see another upward move even with these downward moves happening. 4 hour is something I like to look at on the dollar just to see, okay, 4 hours getting close to that center line. It's getting down towards that 105.65 we said was pretty important. We haven't lost it yet. And now we can maybe see another curl up. So when I see something like that, I like to look at volatility. What's volatility doing? Well, it's about to curl down. It's about to curl down here. So we may see another period of time where the dollar goes up while the stock market goes up. So just pay attention to that. But remember, for volatility, what do we need to see? Well, we need to see this tested at this point because something huge is happening. And I'm sorry I didn't put out a YouTube video last night. I was helping with baby girl. We had a little stressful day and I wanted to give mom a break. But you're noticing this. This would be the moment where you have to see some buying up. You have to see this VIX get crushed because this is happening. And I know it's 2 lines on a random thing on the internet crossing, but I think it's like 95% of the time you see some kind of bigger correction, right? We see volatility come back in, or you see some kind of crash when this actually does cross. Now that hasn't crossed yet, so I'm saying that bullishness needs to probably come in right away for this to start turning down. So if we are going to see volatility really turn down, we're going to need some great earnings tomorrow. I'm genuinely saying tomorrow you're going to need some great earnings. Now, if we do see a reaction up, remember this has to remain crossed. So I think we have to, if we're going to see some reaction in volatility, this won't make a new high. We'll see that drop back off with some good earnings like really, really quick. I think it has to happen in the next couple of days. Big day for bonds, and they might have some What are they? They might have some auctions or something like that out there. The thing with bonds is this was negative to start the day, so that's interesting. 10-year looks like it wants to drop off. Probably go down and test this 4.495. Remember, this was very, very important. How do we know it's important? Well, we marked it off a long time ago in this uptrend. We just found some areas here. Well, when we broke through this area right here, that was with a new high coming up. We break through this level. That's pretty, pretty bad. So we were paying attention to this level way, way back here. Way back here, and now we can pay attention to it again. And notice this: when we saw the selling come in with the geopolitical news, what happened? We went down to that level. So this level is going to be very, very important. TLT not wanting to fully commit to going up here, meaning pulling down those yields. Bond auction today. Let me go look at what's coming out I'll down the pipeline here. NVIDIA going up towards its daily expected move. Keep that in mind. New home sales coming out at 9 a.m. here in 8 minutes. We have flash PMIs coming in a little bit lower. Okay, coming in lower. So that might be seen as some okay news there. And then the 42-day bill auction and 2-year note auction are later today. Money supply data coming out later as well. But tomorrow we actually get durable goods. This will be interesting. This is something that can actually move the yields just a little bit. Then we get a bunch of oil going on. Few bill auctions there again. 5-year note auction. I think GDP is going to be the most important thing for TLT and the 10-year yield. We'll have to see what the GDP prints here. Because it is coming down from the previous, TLT actually might see a bid up, and we might pull those yields a little bit down. So we'll have to see. But, you know, TLT bonds have really been struggling. And then we get initial jobless claims on Thursday as well. So what do I think? I think if we actually get a lower number in the GDP, we're going to see TLT go up. And maybe we actually see a reaction up in the market and then see that reaction down. Remember, guys, earnings is great. Earnings is just fantastic. That's great, but no inflation's out there. Inflation's in the system. So really the actual reports like GDP and data reports are going to be more important when it comes to the grand scheme of things, the actual macro. So even if stocks start to keep heading up and up, and you can notice maybe we want to react and touch that 20 at this point. If you're a swing trader, actually, you'd be saying, hey, I'm going long here. Here's my big beat down towards the center line. There it is. Okay, curls up, positive territory. We're going to see another positive move. And don't kid yourself just because there's some lines here of resistance. If we break through these resistances and we stay above them, you can make a new all-time high in the SPY. I want to be very, very, very clear about that. You can make a new one. It's just not what we're leaning towards right now. Okay, we need this to happen. If one or two companies, one or two big companies puts out something and says something like inflation is bugging them, or even something like Netflix last week where they just said we're no longer going to give the subscriber count, we can see downward moves. So what we want to pay attention to here, daily curls up into positive territory. What's going to happen? Most likely we are going to test this higher, go make a new one at that point, if this is actually able to curl up into positive territory. But if that tries to curl up and fails, you're most likely going to take out this low. You can maybe go down to this zone down towards 478, right? 478 looks pretty good for some kind of bounce. This big zone down here, we have two of them, but this looks good for liquidity. We have the 200 there. That's a good place where maybe we could see some 2-hour divergences, some 4-hour divergences, and start to play some upside. Okay, so this is more of a dead cat bounce is what I'm leaning towards. We see another push down with an ABC pattern, get into this zone, and then that would be a better place for the correction to make that next upward move. Now in May, we'll have to pay attention because it could be a sell in May and go away type attitude. So we'll have to see what happens from here forward. But as of right now, SPY, you want to wait for it to confirm any of these 5-minute divergences. 5-minute divergences are very important to just wait till they confirm, because a lot of the time you're going to make a triple divergence or something like that. Oh, lots of talking today, but we love it. We're talking about the stonks. Let's talk about the stonks. Google making a good upward move, just so you are aware, as we are watching the SPY and it's getting out of that daily expected move. Google is making a solid move higher at this point, up 1.12%. Microsoft making a solid move up, able to curl up on the 2-hour, so you'd say a bounce is here for Microsoft, up 1.24%. Meta seeing that bounce, but not getting, it's starting to look a little fadey right now, but up 2%. That's pretty solid. And you have nvidia. So if you go look over at nvidia, I'm just going to tell you right now, looking at this from the 2-hour scale, we're seeing that start to want to curl up. Okay, the weekly expected move, really pay attention to that as we approach this zone. Remember, this is all the options market has priced in. So if I was long on this, it would mean, hey, take some profit here. It doesn't mean you can't keep going. It doesn't mean you can't. It means take a little bit of profit. That way you know you made some kind of profit out of this trade. And then if you see something crazy happen outside of that weekly expected move, hey, now you can ride that thing a little bit longer. But right now you're approaching where the options market expects some resistance. All right, haven't chatted with you guys in a sec. Palantir. Oh, gosh. Palantir with a strong move higher off of what? Right around 2029. Look at that, 2029. Remember, we were talking about 2029, and we're just above it, but we'll take it as a good enough at this point, right? So we were expecting some kind of curl up around 2029. Remember, we were talking about that probably like April 5th or something like that. We were talking about 2029, finding some support level there, and we're starting to see a bounce. So where could that bounce end? Well, we could fade out from here. We really could. We could start to fade out. We're towards that center line, so we could curl down again. Oh, excuse me. But this is a strong move. It's breaking you out of the previous trend. So right now, you would say most likely we are going to see either more bullishness come in. As we are getting overbought, though, you'd expect maybe some consolidation before that happens. But this is a solid move from Palantir. Gotta say it is. Now, on the daily scale, we can see the 20s right above us. You really want to take that back. The 20 was able to cross through the 50 here. So all of this can be resistance. This level up here of 23 can be resistance. This level of 2250 can be resistance. April 30 puts on the keys. Solid play, or is this move too strong? Well, it is strong, and it's above the daily expected move. I would just wait for this. I would really just be patient. Make sure that 5 minutes confirming divergence. If you wanted to take a chance here, I totally would understand. You're filling a gap, right? You're filling a gap. You're coming up into where the daily is expected to pull back. You just don't want to be convinced like, hey, this has to flush from here. It can. It definitely can, right? Look how close that is to going negative here. We could start that negative trend down. I would just say, hey, if this pulls back and curls back up into positive, that's how I know that I'm going to get screwed. Okay, so I know that's a funny way to put it, but we trade like water, so that means we're open to all scenarios. And that just tells me, hey, how could I get screwed if I'm taking a play for this to break through this low? Well, if this low doesn't break, or we go even lower and just base out and do something like this. So I would be paying attention to the 5 minute rolling back up into positive territory. That would screw me on a short play here. And then if it's not going to screw me, it's going to go deep into negative, and you're going to take out this low, and you're going to try to maybe even go down to lower levels to test this one. So really pay attention to that. If you want confirmation of that move, well, this 30 minute has to curl over. That's why the 30 minutes very, very important today. You can see it for Apple. It's very important. You can see it for Tesla. It's probably going to be pretty important, right? So we can see curl overs into negative territory with a lot of these stocks. Even with these bounces. Amazon not necessarily confirming a big upward move just yet. Remember, it's right by the center line. That curls over. Most likely, we're going to test this low, go make a new one for Amazon. So just be cautious up in this area. So something to pay attention to with a lot of the stocks going forward. nvidia going forward, AMD going forward, Meta going forward, Microsoft. This is the moment of truth where they really have to show some good bullishness to head higher from this area. Even Google, one that's looking even stronger, not necessarily seeing the most strength at this point. Maybe it wants to consolidate before earnings, trick people out, say, hey, go short, and then boom, it starts to head up. Yes, red green. Yes, I totally agree with that. You can go back in history, and every time that you go up with this bad news, it leads to more pain. So if you were subscribed to this channel, what do I want to say? Maybe like 4 months. Well, let's just say in October when we called the bottom, and then we watched the stock market just continue to go up over the next few months. We actually were saying this coming October was going to be where the crash happens, and it still could. But right now, because we've moved so high up so fast with no good structure on the way up, really, it leads me to believe, that we're going to see this ripped away a lot sooner. Okay, the way that the yields are reacting, the way that the dollar looks right now, the way that the VIX looks like it's crossing up, the way that we're about to get the death cross on the VIX, it just all looks bad. So paying attention to that is going to be very important going forward, because it looks like, because this move happened so fast and we just got inflation reports that didn't beat the market up, inflation reports again that didn't beat the market up, PPI numbers that didn't mess the market up very much, it leads us into a bad place where you actually can see some kind of sudden move down that puts you into a bear market. Bull trap very well could be, but just remember that these things have to confirm, and you have to really confirm that you're going into a negative trend, even on the 5-minute to start off. So I'm just saying the 5-minute is a good indication that the 30-minute is going to curl over. So if this would confirm and go negative, then I would say, okay. But if this goes negative for a brief moment, and then we fill this gap and turn back up, well, then we know this is the area where we would complete some kind of head and shoulders. So you could just be doing that right now, even cup and handle in this area as well. So just be open to that. But if this gets taken out, I'm pretty sure we're heading lower. The 30-minute's going to cross over. But if we can do this, maybe that 30-minute isn't able to cross over, or does it very briefly, and we see that buy back up. So just be willing to trade like water. This week, you think it would crash? Google earnings, I feel like, might push the market up a bit. I think we're going to see some decent earnings from some, just because inflation's higher. So the numbers are going to be inflated on some of these stocks. So you would expect some upward moves. But the problem is, are they going to do something like Netflix? Are they going to produce great numbers, right? Produce great numbers, but then actually fail? Are they going to produce great numbers and just forget about it? Or are they going to produce great numbers and tell you, hey, we're no longer giving subscriber data. We're worried about inflation. We're experiencing supply issues. We're experiencing these issues. That's what I would pay attention to. And for Netflix here, by the way, 30-minute, just look for this second curl down. Look how that's just trickling up. A lot of the time, the sentiment from earnings does continue after you kind of get towards that center line and see that reaction, get out of oversold territory. No divergence down here or anything. I'm really expecting us to break through our line of 543.31 very soon. I really think that will happen. That will break us through some important key levels, and I think maybe even Netflix heads down towards something like 490 soon, if that confirms. If it's not wanting to confirm, this thing needs to remain positive, or else that move is going to happen. So if this is going to go the other way on us, we're going to have to see this 30-minute get into positive territory, which is kind of a big ask. So if this just curls down, we know, hey, we're probably going to break through this, and that might get ugly. If this actually just keeps going, that would actually be good. So you need this down here to go well positive so that you don't have that opportunity for some kind of negative trend to continue. SMCI with a big move at the bottom of our zone here, came outside of it just briefly and then bought back up. Remember, we were paying attention to two zones. We just flushed through this one, which is very surprising. Very surprising just to flush through some decent support. We go down to our next support level down here. Okay, we find a little base down here. We start to head up. But notice that this is what I'm talking about. The bullishness has to be insane, because this 30-minute has to be able to go positive again. So this 30-minute has to go positive again. That's going to be a huge, huge thing. Now, one thing to remember was, if this was selling due to the geopolitical news, and that really chills out and we just forget about it for a few months, this actually can buy back up over time. So we're really going to pay attention if things are able to go positive. Google is one thing that's able to go positive. So that just means it has the chance to base out and do something like this. We'll just pay attention to that going forward. 2-hour divergence on Google would be very, very interesting. It's good to look at what high yield growth is doing. High yield growth's building up too. So the smart money getting in on this upward move as of right now. And TLT doing a similar thing, right? Starting to head up to higher levels, trying to break through here. So TLT actually had a little triangle in this area, right? Little triangle in this area. And it actually broke down early on today, and now it's building back up. So that first move, a little bit of a fake out. Now we're up in positive territory still. We can see a strong move here. So I'd pay attention to that going forward. But volatility still trying to curl down. Really looking for at least a 30-minute divergence on the SPY and the VIX at the same time, or at least a 15-minute divergence on the SPY and some kind of divergence on the VIX at the same time to kind of hint that volatility is coming back into this market. Hopefully you guys are finding the info helpful. I really do appreciate you guys liking, subscribing, taking the course. And remember, I'm going to do a free one-on-one. We're still doing that, by the way. We're still doing that. I'm going to give a free one-on-one to someone who is part of the Patreon. And if you took the course, I'm going to put your name in the hat twice. Okay, because the course is a little more expensive than joining the Patreon. So if you do take the course, remember it's $149 for the next 12 days only. And that way you can get your name in the hat twice if you do take that course. So be looking forward to that. You'll get an hour of time with me so we can look through some charts together, ask questions, maybe look at a stock that you really like and try to break it down with you. Really teach you about how, especially if you took the course, we can talk about a lot of the things in there as well. So make sure to put your name in the hat if you want to, learn some new skills, which you're going to need more skills in this market. Take the course. It puts your name in the hat twice. If you want to get some ranges and just put your name in the hat, hey, $7 and you could possibly win a chance to, hang out with me for an hour. I'm pretty fun to hang out with. Look, I'm not that bad. Pretty fun to hang out with, and I like to talk about stocks. The earnings are so unpredictable since the growth estimates are so over the top for the next earnings. If they didn't line up with the next two, they can be positive but still crash the Mag 7. And that's kind of a little bit of what we're talking about here is we could see these great prints that either don't match expectations, as we do see another higher move in the SPY. They don't match the expectations, or they say something else. They match expectations like Netflix, but then they say, hey, yeah, we're experiencing inflation. We're experiencing supply issues because of inflation. We're worried about geopolitical things going on. Like anything like that will shake up the market here. So SPY will go to 505 at minimum off this bounce. It's possible that's where our weekly move is. I don't think so. I think this level here, I think 504 is as high as you go here, and then you start to pull back down. The good part about going to 504, you're buying yourself more room on the MACD to kind of base out and do this. But just be open to the fact that, hey, I have divergence very close to the upper side weekly expected move on a 5-minute. I know, take it with a grain of salt. It's a 5-minute, so you can't just curl down and curl back up. So what I would do here is maybe even do something like this, right? Create some sort of trend here. I got 3 touches. I ignore the wick on this one. That way I have the 3 touches I really like to see, okay? And then maybe this does something like this and wants to go down like this and then curl back up. So I'll give you the bullish and bearish scenario for the SPY of how this could go up and how this could go down. Most likely, if this is going to go up, this is where you need to create that handle. Okay, so we're going to build down like this. Maybe it takes a little time, gets tight, and then boom, we see that reaction up. Maybe it gets us all the way into this zone up here. That'd be very interesting. That would be the bullish scenario. If you're going to see the bearish scenario, well, we broke out of a pretty key level right here, right? And we got some support from that level as well. It's almost matching these highs. Okay, so what would I want to pay attention to the downside? If this breaks that trend, gets some kind of retest, and then rolls over again, you would be confirming a negative trend here, breaking through this level, heading lower, curling over some 30 minutes and things like that. So that's what I would pay attention to. I think those are your 2 ways, one to go up, one to go down. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, if I was day trading today, I would be out of this move by now. That's all I'm saying. I would be out just because I don't play around with the daily expected moves. I go with the percentages. You are way more likely, right? 68% compared to 32. You're over double more likely to see this pull back throughout the day today and then go higher at the end of the day than you are to see it actually just rip. Yes, and SPX is moving above that as the SPY is doing the same. Remember, we give them out for the SPX as well on Patreon. We give it out for Apple, all that good stuff on the weekly ranges. So, man, throw your name in the hat, guys. It's probably worth it just to try it. And then if you do end up liking what's going on Patreon, then you can stay in there, hang out with us. And Marina, thank you so much for the $5 donation on PayPal with the link down in the description. Really appreciate that because you guys know I love donations. You guys are fantastic. You know I love when you guys buy me a cup of coffee, 5, 10, 15 bucks here and there. I really do appreciate it. It gets me my coffee fix, and I'm kind of addicted in the morning to coffee. But when you do it on PayPal, it's actually a little bit better for me. The link down in the description there. Get out of pull up the fun account today. So now we can peek over at the Q, see what that looks like. Well, this is a little bit higher up, okay? So this is a bigger move, right? So if you wanted to really convince me this is going down, you would have to pull all the way back down to this level and break it. So therefore, I'm really leaning towards us doing something like this, maybe creating myself a little trend line here just to make sure that it's not breaking through and doesn't even have that opportunity. You know, it's not able to make a solid trend line here with the actual low. Okay, not able to make a solid trend line. That trend line can come all the way down to here. Maybe I'll leave it there because if you would break through that, it would be bad. But if we slowly do this over time and then we go like that, it would be good. So really want to pay attention if this is actually going negative, remaining negative over here, or if it's going to head up, because this around this gap fill is where we would want to maybe do something like this. So just pay attention to that going forward. But it looks like we may run into a little bit of resistance as we move forward. nvidia starting to get towards its daily expected or weekly expected move. Apple's still trying to turn up. Tesla really trying to turn up, and Tesla is towards, you know, a little bit closer to the bottom side move. Now you do have some space still between there, so it's still time to pay attention. But Tesla been breaking down for quite a long time. It might try to make an upward move if it gets any kind of good print from earnings. So remember that too. It's like Tesla's been beat up so long. Okay, Tesla's been beat up so long that we actually can see a positive move here from any kind of earnings. People are going to expect less from Tesla. So if they surprise in any way, that actually can be a good thing. So just pay attention to that. But remember, earnings 50-50 flip. I'm not trying to do anything with that. I just think that would be interesting if that's the actual psychology behind it. And this is nvidia. Just remember that's approaching its 20, so it's a time to be like, okay, we could see some stuff pull back over the next few days. But in order to see pullbacks, we want to see some signals from the VIX at least, like a 15-minute something. We're kind of seeing it as of right now, but it's just been really in this oversold for a long time. So what do we want to pay attention to on the flip side of that? Look for the SPY. Hey, what's happening here? Well, you do have a 15-minute divergence as you approach the daily expected move. So some kind of pullback could happen from this area. Is it going to go deep? Is it going to go all the way down to 495? Probably not. I think it really, at least the deepest it goes, at least for now, I would look at 498.50, 499. No. Looks good though, doesn't it? We should pay attention to a 5-minute because that's probably where we're actually going to see this thing start to pull back if this thing can curl down. But it's like, what if the earnings are bad over the next couple of days and then we get GDP and the market starts to head back up? You know, this can still happen. I would just be interested to see how we end up by the end of the week with the actual data coming out. That's what I would say. Oh boy, look at this. We're watching stonks. Would you say we're still in a bearish trend? I think you are on like a 2-hour for sure. Look at the 2-hour. You're definitely in bearishness on the 2-hour. Now you're building up, but you're looking for that second crossover. 30-minute is still potentially there. So that's why I'm saying this 5-minute divergence could mean more than you think if it rolls over this 30-minute. Okay, so you did have divergence on the 30-minute at these lows, but you didn't necessarily have it on the RSI at the same time. So you could say this bounce right here is just a pull back because you didn't necessarily have momentum fully dying, but you were able to go positive. But if those 5-minute divergences starts to break you through this low right here of 499, then you're starting to open the door of test this low, go make a new one, set up a divergence in the future, and then boom, maybe we see an actual reaction with the data going up. And then this bounce is it just takes more time to play out. Remember, the stock market's not like, oh, we see a bounce for 2 days. I mean, sometimes it is, but when things are like this and you're just going down based on geopolitical stuff, it's kind of like, the stock market's not just going to go up and up and up or up and up for 2 days or something like that. It's probably going to take a little bit of time to build back up, as you did lose a bunch of price action. Okay, so you might need to build more strength at this base and then head up. That's why it's like, hey, this is where it pays to be a good trader and trade like water. And we're actually working on some, if you guys were interested, my wife's a big artist. She's from New York. And so she is working on some, if anyone wants to submit any kind of trade like water, crest or some kind of symbol, we're actually creating that because I think it would be fun to have a sweatshirt that says trade like water, or t-shirts or something like that. You can still break down lower and retest the trend line from recent highs and fill the gap from yesterday. And that's very, very true. That's why this is going to be very important if you lose this. But you'll notice if we get some kind of reaction down, well, what if we fill that gap and start to head up too? We'll just pay attention to the shorter time frames in here. But if this would happen quickly, you're most likely not going to be able to fully roll over this MACD into negative territory. It'll probably be something like this pretty quick. But if this actually does roll over, well, you're taking out this. You're probably going to test this or head lower. Make a long sleeve. Yeah, we'll make a long sleeve. I want like one of those long sleeve polyester, like beach vibes type shirts, like my white one that I have. I love that one. It's so comfy. And it's like keeps you warm, but also is kind of cool. It's very, very cool. So do we think we crash? Not necessarily. I'm not saying we're like going to crash. I'm saying this is where we could most likely see a pullback. So I will be looking at my long play and probably think about taking some profit there. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So you guys are going to see live. I'm literally going to do it right now. Take some profit. I didn't make that much. I think it's like 20% or something like that. So I didn't do very well finding my entries. And that's why I'm not going to make too much on this move, I think. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean I did anything wrong. It just kind of means like, hey, maybe I want to be a little bit more diligent next time. Notice this about how I'm talking about my trade and how it wasn't as profitable as I'd like. Notice when I'm talking about that, because what am I saying? I'm not saying, oh, the stock didn't do this, the stock didn't do that, the stock didn't. No, I'm saying, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong here that I can change? I can't control which way the stock's going to go. I don't have enough money, right? But I can control my reaction. I can control the things that I can control. And that's something that a soccer coach really helped me out with in college. It really taught me a lot of those skills, just to say, hey, why don't you focus on the things that you can change? And that's something that I'm a big advocate for actually our country is, a lot of the times I think in America, we incentivize bad things. We don't incentivize strong families. We incentivize singleness. We don't incentivize non-drug use. We incentivize actually drug use because we're willing to actually house people with drug. And I know that's very cold-hearted, but that's just playing to your strengths type thing. And that's what I teach my kids in soccer when I do coach. I do teach them stick to your strengths. And so I think America should stick to its strengths. But there's you guys get a little bit of my political view, though, of I think we should be sticking to our strengths. So one of our strengths right now is not our ability to spend money is not a strength for our government right now. That's a good way to put it. Our ability to spend money is very good. Our ability to go into debt is very good, which is a bad thing. It's called football, please. Oh, yeah, it's football. Yeah, football. I know. I wish it was called football here, too. Thoughts on sector rotation into XL? I think you're going to see a reaction. I think you're going to see a reaction maybe back into energy soon. This has been very strong for a long time. Seeing these 30 minutes, right, start to curl up. Now you could see a pullback here. That's perfectly fine. But I actually think the inflation play is still here. And we're going to see another move higher in this. I really do. Now, that being said, is it going to happen right now? Is it going to happen at this moment? I think it should, but is it? Well, I'm not seeing anything that tells me I can know there's a probability of it happening. If anything, I see A, B, wow, that was terrible. A, B, C, 200 on the XLE comes into play, okay, now I have a 2-hour divergence right at this level. This would be where I think the next move happens. So I think XLE still has that opportunity to back off. So energy going to back off a little bit there. And I think someone was mentioning gold. Let's just see if the gold's getting a good reaction. Gold coming down into the area. Remember, I said 215s. That's what I'm playing it to, 215. Boom. So I took profit on this move. This was my good trade, right, very early on in the week. This is great to start your week, isn't it? NVIDIA's going berserk, and NVIDIA might be reacting into that zone. Remember, this zone up here is where we were talking about. It's where that 20 is. I'm just telling you right now, be careful up in this area. This is all the options market expected was 817-ish, right? It was literally right here, right where you're going to see this. Now, it's a good thing we were able to build up, but just remember, this is what you wanted to see. You want to see some strong buying, sideways move, strong buying. You're seeing trickle up, trickle up, trickle up, strong move, trickle up, trickle up, trickle up. So right now, I would say this has a good likelihood to pull back in some way before it heads higher, right? Maybe this is the cup and there's the handle, something like that. But this zone could act as a sell zone. If you do start to burst through there, pretty much the lesson here is take profit, play with house money from now on. If you're in this move, and you're in it down here at a good area, take profit, play with house money. If something crazy happens, cool. If not, at least you made money. Netflix has cheap calls. Be careful with Netflix. Remember, this 30-minute can roll over at any time. Now, Netflix actually, though, was something we were talking about at earnings, possibly building up once it came down to 543, just because maybe that reaction due to the subscribers was a little overdone, and we do come and try to fill this gap. Now, that doesn't mean it has to happen right now. Are we seeing anything on the 15-minute for a base out? Well, no. We're seeing this weird behavior from the MACD. This right here usually leads to a curl down. Sometimes it doesn't, but I have to pay attention any time in this move for this to curl down as it keeps building up, because it's not necessarily strong buying. It's not, well, right now it is, right? Right now you're getting one, and then you're moving sideways. Sorry, I keep burping. Maybe you're completing some kind of cup in this area, you get the handle and you head higher. I think you're right in saying that, but I'm just saying I would like to see maybe a double bottom before that happens, right? I like a little bit more structure before I take a move. Oh no, you got your ass handed to you. Oh God. Where's Willow? All right, 2-hour curling over on the MACD here. Remember, we didn't fully get to our zone. It looks like DJT might head down to this level. Are we seeing anything in the move to convince us of this heading down? Well, you're seeing a break of trend. 30-minute is still up here, so you do have a decent opportunity for this to be some kind of pullback. But you notice this, just like us trickling up, like I'm saying, this isn't trickling up. This is selling off. So if that continues, then you would say, hey, a higher low is a little less likely. It's probably more likely I'm going to curl over an hourly or curl over a 2-hour, right? Something like that. And then that would lead us to this. And then maybe that's the real opportunity. Remember our zone down here, right between like 20 and 16. Very, very good zone. So if we wanted to, what if we do something like this? I think that would be very, very good. And we just see that bounce, that real bounce in the stock market come a little bit later if that does happen right in this area, right? So what we're paying attention to on there is similar to what we're paying attention to on the 30-minute. Seeing if this can actually roll over would tell you, hey, I'm heading down. Okay, now we can base out with some kind of divergence double bottom down here. But if this just keeps going, well, what if we do this and keep going up like that? So this is what I would lean towards. But as we're approaching it very early on in the week, I would really lean towards maybe some kind of bigger pullback, and then we see that start to head up. But it doesn't have to happen, right? I'm still going to pay attention to the signals right now. Actually, the 5-minute is slightly important. Another thing to pay attention to, let's look at yields. I think yields could still see a big reaction, down from here before that earnings happens. 5-minute on the VIX here. I don't like looking at the 5-minute on the VIX, right? You can see all these little pops and see these divergences and convince yourself this is the moment. Just stating, you can watch it go into positive territory. If you see an actual strong move, probably above these levels here, that actually gets you well into positive territory, then you can really see that start to trend up. I would just pay attention to that going forward. 15-minute, though, you can see rolling down. But if you wanted a divergence, it'd have to really form now. But you can see extreme bullishness coming in as of right now. That just means calls are coming in pretty much. But calls are coming in. Where are the calls coming in? Well, they're coming in outside of our daily expected move. So the probabilities still say 68% chance to land right here. 68% chance to land here. 68% chance to land down here. Probably middle of zone by end of day. And I'm going to click through on my other screen just to see what we're doing, see if we're approaching any kind of daily expected moves or anything like that. Tesla looking like it's not getting anywhere close. Nvidia's past it at this point, so Nvidia outside its weekly expected move. Meta still in the middle. Microsoft still in the middle. Google still in the middle. Going a little up for Google. TLT right in the middle, so now seeing that buy back up. So it looks like TLT could head towards something like 91. Maybe we see a big reaction up before we actually get some data later this week. That would be very, very interesting going forward. But now we just have to sit, be patient, and wait for the next setup. That's a strong move. Like I said, if something crazy happens, this is why it's like, okay, take profit, but I can let some roll, right? I can play with house money here, see if something crazy happens. But still, you're creating that divergence even now. So just be worried if anything crosses over here and be paying attention to this trend here. I think that's going to be the most important thing to watch moving forward. TFC is just rising. AMD is close. Let me double check AMD real quick. Oh, I don't even have that on my watch list over here, so I actually have to go into the weekly expected moves for that. I literally took AMD off my trade list. I'm not trading it anymore. We'll still break it down for fun, but it just looks... It's just been ugly, ugly, ugly for some time. Texting me. Stop it. Help, need help on PHM. I've been doing well short and got caught wondering if this earning buying is going to fade or you're going to get run over. Oh gosh, see. I don't want to be the person who's going to give you bad news, but you are above the 200. You have a good reaction off earnings. You see that post above all the moving averages now. This is a swing trader's dream. Beat down, strong move, bounce across on the MACD. I'm going to tell you right now, this has a very high probability to continue to go up here. It really does. This is a swing trader dream. And then that short position might come in again at this level up here with a triple divergence at this point. So now weird thing about PHM here is it might be a good timeline indication of when we're going to see the next downfall. When it does confirm another divergence up in this area, that's where I would pay attention to possibly take a short position. You should know if you're short up here and you go all the way down to bottom Bollinger, you should know there is a chance as you're above the 200. So let's see if there's anything that you could have thought of that would have screwed you out of the move. All right, let's go into a 2-hour first. Was there anything here? Well, a 2-hour going positive would be the thing, but not necessarily a reason to get out. 30-minute divergences. Okay, here we go. So 30-minute divergences really close to the center line on the RSI. This is where you knew to get out of this move, especially before earnings. If you were short, you made plenty of money on this move. If you were short the whole time. If you were short the day before earnings, there is no reason to really be short from a technical standpoint, right? You're kind of betting against it, but it's still a 50-50 flip. So I understand, but I'm just saying I wouldn't mess with any stock that looks like this. 30-minute divergence, triple divergence across the way, able to confirm that right next to positive territory. The big thing here is the RSI in this divergence, right? When this divergence was confirming, look where the RSI was. It's right at that center line, already crossing up. Remember, the MACD lags behind. So that's saying, hey, I need some time to go positive. The RSI was positive, like, well in advance, even down at this bar right here. It was actually positive at that point. So that told you that the momentum was shifting. And therefore, even looking at this not around earnings, it's like, if anything, you should play upside based on the technicals here. But it's still earnings, guys. It's still earnings, which means this easily could have been ripped away. Funny because it's exactly where I would short and exactly for the same reason you've given. On this here, if you're shorting right here, this is just not diligent trading. And I'm not trying to come at you. I'm just being very honest. You would short right here? Maybe I'm not reading this right. Not at the bottom right now. Oh, okay. Where you short are the curlovers into negative territory, right? Short. Okay, short. Okay, if this would have broke down right here, short. But you want to see because that's going to be getting tighter. That's what I would say. It would be like, okay, short, okay, short, okay, short. That's how I would more play it. And then I'd be looking for the top here, right? This top up here. This is actually where you definitely go short and you hold that for quite some time. Boom, that breaks all the way down. Don't pay attention to the buy and sell. I just leave it up for fun, right? This lags behind pretty hard. If you're really looking for a good buy here, right here, with this bar right here is 2 bars before you get the buy signal because it lags behind like the MACD. So the RSI actually is where you wanted to buy off this move. But the buy sell indicator, you can literally just type SMA 950 180 and then it'll probably pop up and say buy sell. Looks like we're at resistance. Well, you might be at resistance, but if you wanted to go up from here, that we're actually getting past where you probably should have created something, but we're getting past this level. So even if you start to lose this, I think if you start to lose this little zone right here, then you could probably talk about a short, right? This would be where I could talk about a short. But at this time, it would say, okay, if you're saying the whole explanation, if you're taking shorts, if it was because of this explanation that you're taking shorts, that's just not correct. Like I don't know how to explain that, but I would just say every single time you go down to the center line, you cross up into positive territory, you take back the moving averages, what happens? Boom, big move. Okay, we beat down to the center line, we cross up. Do we cross up into positive territory? Well, very high probability with this strong bar that happens now, so an upward move is coming. Even if you short right here, sure, you could catch some kind of small pullback, maybe to retest a 50, maybe retest the 5 at deeper levels at 107 even. But eventually, that could just take over on the daily side momentum. But so I like when they're both at the same time. And if it is forming on both, that's why I like them both to be forming. And then I see the confirmation, say like right before the crossing happens, I see the confirmation on the RSI, I'll take it. And then after that, though, I will most likely pay attention, make sure that it's confirming on the MACD right after. If it's not confirming on the MACD right after, I'm out of the move pretty quick. Man, forget this weird stock. What's NVIDIA doing? NVIDIA wants to cross up. Maybe it wants to cross up into positive territory, right? We can see crazy things outside of those weekly expected moves. But AMD just catching a huge bid, coming up into our sell zone, completing a big cup, actually. I mean, like if you were going to say, I need to complete a cup somewhere, well, first place would probably be, well, right here. Okay, boom. Now right here, we didn't necessarily even need a handle, which means we had sufficient liquidity. Now we head up to here. We keep creating the cup higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. A little bit worrisome in this big move, though, because, you know, there is some structure in it. But I would just say we're approaching a sell-off zone. So you're approaching a zone where you can see a sell-off 30 minutes still right by, you know, positive, negative, right by the center line, right? So if this rolls over from here, remember, support zones can turn into resistance. So this is going to be a very important area. But, I mean, yesterday we were like, all right, NVIDIA's probably going up to this area. As long as Apple didn't confirm anything down, I was pretty convinced we were going to head up towards some upside. It just looked pretty good. This looked like a pullback. We're approaching the weekly expected move now. The weekly. Like, that is not the best thing to do. Thank you, shorted on the way down and got caught. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm not. And no, guys, whenever you guys ask me about this, and it maybe seems like I'm like, you shouldn't have done this, I'm not trying to be a douche. I'm really not. I'm just telling you how it is. I feel like being honest is way more helpful than trying to, make it soft and cookie-like for you. I'm not trying to, make you feel good. I'm trying to help you get better if you can, really. But I appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you for telling us about that because it's a good, it was a great thing to analyze. DHI beat on earnings and sold off. So what was the news with this, though? Sold off. Rolled up. Damn, you saw a big pop and a big drop. Okay, but you do know that this was during the whole Israel-Iran announcement, wasn't it? When was that announced? Wasn't it on let's do this. Yeah, Thursday, Friday was when that, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was when that stuff was going on. So you actually saw good earnings during a time where geopolitical was involved. The geopolitical stuff might have affected that a little bit, and now maybe the real move starts to head up. But I do believe the problem with the SPY at this point is I think you really wanted to consolidate at 503.42 right at this level here. I mean, it's great if you react even higher, that's fine. But now we'll need to really be able to hold up and just see that go ballistic, I think. If we start to fade from here, it looks like we may head down towards the middle of our zone again. Not necessarily all the way in one day. I'm not circling that. I'm saying the middle of our zone, right? Somewhere around this area where we opened up the week. Boom, boom, boom. Would look a lot better than this right now. But this is kind of what you want to see. Now we want to see something like this happen. So we see that buying up. We see something like this. We buy up. We see something like this. We buy up. That would be better. Right now, you're pretty much. I think the SPY's asking for a drop here. So, do I want to play the drop? That's the thing. Do I really? We'll see. There you go, hitting that monthly. Remember, the monthly can act as resistance here. But if we wanted to head higher, right, now we can use the top side of the daily as some support. If we start to lose that, you're going to be confirming divergences. But I did want to mention, this MACD was able to climb up higher here. So just pay attention to that. The MACD was able to climb up higher. So now the likelihood of us fully breaking down actually for the Qs looks a little lower, okay? Because this has built up so high on the 5-minute. Really want to see if that pulls back now. I think a pullback down to this area would really get people to get really bearish. We see that pullback happen, and then it just curls right back up into positive territory, and you see the next big move. So going to be dependent on earnings tomorrow, though. As you are seeing things hit its upside of the expected moves, a little bit worrisome for stocks moving forward. Remember, guys, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, and we're heading up towards the weekly expected move. Very early on. Now, we talked about, if you watch the weekend video, we talked about, the fact that what if the market makers were taken back by this and they want to manipulate the market higher to get out of their positions and then it's ripped away later. So that is still a possibility at this point. Let's see. I'm going to click around on my left screen here, just make sure nothing's doing anything too crazy. Except for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is really the only one doing something wild, and maybe AMD at this point, right? How we doing out there? We're still on the edge of World War III. I am so bearish. Just know, I'm pretty sure. Let me go look. Wanted to see, there was something about Israel like scaling it back for a little bit. Now we're really just waiting for Iran, and that could take some time, right? They said if they attack, they were going to turn the nuclear power plant into a bomb creation center instead of a power plant, right? So we just have to wait for some of that. Just know that can come at any time. My thoughts on gold are this is the pullback. If we want to, we can pull back more. But I said last week, 215. I actually took this play. This was my good win early on in the week. So if this wanted to, I think this is where gold could actually base out and we see this go again. So just don't be turned off by the political news that could come out. Gold coming down into an area where it could bounce. Why would it bounce? Things like that can happen. So you just want to always be willing to hedge or something like that. AMD, strong move there from AMD. NVIDIA, yeah, you're saying, oh, NVIDIA can't sell off from here, right? It's like NVIDIA is bullish now. We'll see by end of day. You want that print, right? We need that print. Really, NVIDIA's not bullish until you're able to take back some key levels here, right? We need to, first of all, get fully out of this zone. That means break above 842.30. That would be the first good sign. The next good sign would be wait for the test of these moving averages. If we're going to see that bullishness continue, wait for the test of both of these moving averages here. If you take both of those back, yeah, I'll probably be starting to say, hey, this is bullish. And if we wanted to talk about even a swing trader's dream here, it is possible that this is an upward move. It is, because you're taking back that 5. Now, some people use the 9 and things like that, but if you're taking back the 5 and you're able to take back the 20 and the 50, curls up positive territory, boom, we might see a big move from NVIDIA going forward. But with everything going on as of right now, I would just be a little bit skeptical because you're doing that move very, very, very quickly. Very quickly. So you notice the 15 minutes still, if you just curl over and see some good selling, you can turn back down. But that is a pretty good V shape. Ready for the New York Stock Exchange going to 24/7 trading? Is that really happening? Is that really happening? In Ajin, I think I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you would say risk to reward here for the rest of the day is, we close down in this area. You just maybe don't want to play around too much with this type of stuff, right? We want to make sure stuff's confirming, right? This divergence on the SPY still holding, which just tells us the SPY could see a more dramatic pullback. The Qs could just pull back a little bit. So the SPY, what if the SPY just goes boom all the way down to here and curls back up? Okay, positive thing. You're pretty high up in positive territory. So as we keep trickling higher, you actually do have a little bit better probability of not going negative, right? You're still in positive territory. You want to see that go negative. So if we do something like this, that would actually be very encouraging to the bull side going forward. But earnings might shake all of that up. They're thinking about it. I watched something about that the other day, and I was just like, whoa. But if they did that, if they did that, that would be crazy. Because imagine like stuff happens overnight. You'd have you could technically watch the stock market all the way around, but you'd have to change all your strategies. I'd have to change all of my stock strategies and just go with my crypto strategy on stocks, which is fine with me. I mean, I know what I'm doing with it, but should the crypto world is in the stock market deep, so 24 hours trading makes sense. I'm down with it. I think that'd be fun. We could do night streams. Yeah, we could trade at night. Play rave music. But yeah, just know you can end all the way back up to 499.72 by end of day. If you do see a pullback like this, just make sure it's not doing something like that by end of day. Oh my god, yeah, if you don't have stops and stuff like that going, like, you're gonna hurt. WAF, that's in crypto, the real. I think it'd be cool. I'm down with it. I'm here for it. IWM, big move up here. That's where did we start the week on this thing? I was gonna make ranges for this. I just forgot. I got into dad mode, of course, and things went to crap. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna say you're outside of your weekly expected move probably here. But SPY looking like it could pull back from this area. So Has AMD reached its high on today's expected move? I mean, if you want to say like, are the Qs reaching its daily expected move? Yes, so AMD could be reaching a daily expected move, but you can't make daily expected moves really for individual stocks without the expiration. So you need the expiration date. AKA, we can only give you a weekly, which is over on Patreon, but we can take a. I could take a look real quick, see what AMD's doing. Pull up those ranges. AMD still has room to the upside. Just a little bit. A few points. You're welcome, Donald. There's no observation, but when the RSI hits those numbers on the 30-minute in the recent 20 times, it corrected between 0.7 and 2% to the downside soon. According to BOA, the USDC will replace the USD. Oh, on the 30-minute when it reaches. Sorry, my obviously my my what's it called? My ADHD kicked in for a moment, and I started to read the next thing while thinking about the first thing that I read. Oh, wait, this is AMD. We don't want to look at that. Okay, so you're looking at times where it reacted up to this area on the RSI, and it pulled back 0.7 to 1% or something like that. We might be in for a sharp pullback, and that would make sense. We're up towards the weekly early on in the week. Now we can probably see a drop down, and maybe we buy back up by the end of the week. That's the overall thinking here. That's how it would make sense and stay within the ranges. Excuse me. Ah, my nose. VIX is not turning back around either, so this will be interesting. Let's see if that 5-minute confirms now. Yeah, that's the interesting thing is daily expected moves might have to actually add a calculation of time. So right now, well, it would depend if it has a day by day thing. It'd be very difficult to make expected moves actually because you have no closing. So you would have to find the implied volatility at the exact same time every single day for all these stocks. So you'd probably have like a 10-minute window to just find those implied volatilities at that point in the day every single time, maybe at still 3 o'clock or, closing on Friday, what it is now. And then you could create them. But then you'd have to like say, hey, I have to pay attention to how they react over the weekend. Did any bad news come out? So it would make things interesting, but I think you could still do it. You just have to implement some sort of time where you make the ranges at the exact same time every single day, every single week. Well, that's the thing too. That means, well, options most likely still wouldn't be available over the weekend. Wouldn't really have to worry about that. Options might still have to trade during market hours, but stocks and stuff could trade more. Yeah, they'd probably close like the future market does. That makes sense. But he's saying 24/7. So 24/7 is much different, right? 24/7 is a lot different. And VIX is not moving at all, though. The funny part is, this is the first area where you could get a lower high. It actually is. I know that's crazy, but this is the first area where you could see that lower high come into play. Now, do I think that's the area? I think we still have more left. I still think we have more of a bounce left than this. And it might just take something like this, curl up. Might take something like this, then curl up to take place. But as of right now, I mean, it looks decent. We haven't seen things curl over. So, hey, you take profit. You're playing with house money. Maybe you play that up to the weekly. Okay, there you go. Like, very, very good move. I'm far away from the mic. I'll pull a little closer. Pull a little closer. Makes sense for the rest of the world. Yeah, then you don't have these awkward closing times and things like that that affect the market, right? A lot of the reason that the market's so affected is like also like they give out data after market hours so people can't react. Like that's just wild. Jerome Powell talks after market hours. Kind of think, man. Interesting. What time do you go live? Usually like right at 8:20 I'm live every single morning, Milo. Shout out for the course and how it's reshaped my trading. You're a really good teacher, Lucas. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that, JS Boyd. Thank you for saying that. Really do appreciate it. Remember, guys, the course, $149. JS Boyd telling you it's pretty good. So, course is $149 for the next 12 days only. So, if you're going to snag that, I would get it pretty soon. Remember, the market's still a more difficult place to trade right now as we end up in a downtrend. Downtrend's just a little bit harder to trade in. Bear market's very hard to trade in, but you can make great money if you just learn how to trade based off the signals, trade based on the weekly expected moves, everything that we talk about on the course. VIX is heading to 16. Okay, let's check on the VIX. It looks like it's heading down towards 16. Remember, we were talking about 15, right, on the daily. 15 looked pretty good. Something down towards 15 for some bullishness, and then we see a big reaction. So as we do approach that level, it's looking like this. Now we have to pay attention maybe on a 2 hour or something like that if you get a lower high and then you get some kind of retest as you break down through this area. Maybe you retest all the way down and then you see that reaction come July, come June or something. But right now I think we could see that bullishness come in. We see a spike of volatility. I'm just going to pay attention to if we're able to see that really go extreme this week or if we're going to see it create a lower high in this area. And we're going to pay attention to 30-minute signals here and on the SPY at the same time to figure out if that's happening. SPY, good bar. Okay, so when we look at the daily, though, I just want to point this out. When we look at the daily, we're getting above this daily expected move. Yes, I think this pulls back, but this is a good move. Like, we can't say it's not. So if we want to see something crazy happen, and this is where I said the market manipulation, the fact that, or maybe not even manipulation, but the fact that we fluked last week because of geopolitical news and now we're going to see this go up, well, then we will probably take out these weeklies and we will start to do this. I'm just saying, based on the short-term structure, do we have that reason to break through? I think they will wait for things like Google earnings. I think they'll wait for the data later on this week. I think those things will be way more telling. And therefore, we can pay attention to a 5-minute still right now on the SPY. Remember, the Q is not really confirming that divergence yet, right? So the Q is actually making a higher point here, which just tells you a pullback is very, very likely for the Qs. Okay, so we're going to make 2 trend lines here, actually. I'm going to do that. A pullback down to this level would make total sense, but then you'd break out. So if we're going to see something more dramatic pulling back, maybe we end up towards 418 on the Qs, and then we're able to curl back up. The SPY has a divergence, so I would expect a little bit deeper pullback from the SPY. Coke and hookers needed. You got to think some of the big money guys get drunk or do lines off hookers' ass during off hours, and you don't want those guys making rash decisions. Oh my god. He's just like, buy everything. He's like, what did he say? He's like, buy condoms. His broker's like, buy condiments. What? What about IWM? Yeah, we can take a look at IWM. We don't have ranges for this. I meant to make ranges. I just totally got, busy all the time over here pretty much. So I'm doing as much as I can as far as this stuff goes. And I still got to trade and all that stuff too once I'm done. So pretty much here, this is a great move. Kind of convinces you like, hey, even on a 5-minute, this might just be basing out and then heading higher again. But what we want to pay attention to here, were there signals to get into this move? The answer was yes. The 30-minute divergences here, yeah, it would have been a scale in opportunity, right? This is a scale in type of thing. And then you scale in one more time and boom, that reaction happens. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, that is a big reaction. Okay, that is a big reaction. And we can assume, even though I don't have weekly ranges, I'm just going to tell you that the weekly range is most likely where you're at on IWM. Because you have the SPY going up towards it, the Q going up towards it. It's probably a little bit higher, maybe sitting right here at 200. 200 would be a good place to gravitate to. Remember, we gravitate towards those whole numbers. So 200 would be very, very good. And then we have to see, are we able to remain in positive territory? So something that could take place here is we keep reacting to 200. We see that back off, and then we head higher again. Remember, this is the support we broke through last time. So if we react to that level, it would almost look like a cup and handle at that point. SPY is breaking to the upside. To the upside. SPY is breaking to the upside, about to actually test that weekly expected move in the morning on a Tuesday, right? So we could be hitting that weekly expected move. Now, if the Qs want to go hit their weekly expected move, we could head up towards the monthly here. And if the Qs wanted to, they could go a little bit higher, seeing the monthly as resistance. It's kind of flipped. It's like if the Qs want to get through its monthly, it's going to go to the weekly. The SPY is, if it gets through its weekly, it's going to go to its monthly. That's what I would just say. There's still a little upside here, but the ultimate thing here is from this area, a pullback is very, very, very likely. If not, we're going to see some earnings shenanigans, and that's why we're not really trading too much around earnings, or at least stocks with earnings. All we have to do is pay attention to 2 hours curling up and things like that. Thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, doing all that good stuff. Always appreciate it from you guys. You guys are fantastic, and hopefully you're finding the info pretty damn helpful. So what do you think I'm doing in this move right now? Well, I'm kind of positioning for a drop here. Just a little. I mean, I'm not doing too much. I think I have... I have like $800 behind some kind of pullback, kind of as a hedge. So I'm not necessarily long anymore. I'm long maybe a little bit on TLT until we get that data this weekend, or this Thursday. But I think from here, a good likelihood for a pullback. It just means this is a great time to take some kind of hedge play, because right now I'm looking for maybe some pullbacks overall. Like if I wanted to trade even Tesla, I could see this pull down to that center line and curl up. So on the 5-minute, I'm not seeing too much reason to head higher here. So I'm going to take a little bit of a hedge to upside, wait for some structure, and switch to bullish very, very soon. But my trade, I didn't even pay attention to any of this. I didn't really play any upside here. My trade was gold. My trade was gold this week. I took it over on Friday. I think this was a great, great setup. I even mentioned it multiple times throughout the week. 2-hour divergences for gold. Looks like some kind of bigger pullback is coming. Boom, 2-hour divergences play out. We get that to come down. Now I just want to see if that daily is curling over. We could see a little bit more of a pullback. Okay, so at the 20, where could we head to? I would say this 205.65 looks pretty good. I think by that time we'll get to the 50 and react up from there. So if that does happen, okay, cool. I'm already out of this position though. It happened pretty quick. So I was able to make I think 90% or 100% in one day. And so therefore, now this has the chance to base out and go up. So I can still pay attention to my 2-hour, see that curl up again. Maybe we see a prolonged move here. So paying attention to gold, still a strong, strong thing. It just could see a pullback, I think, down to 205. It could base out here, or it could keep going. Right now, you're still within this channel too. So good area here for gold. That was my play. That's why I wanted to talk about it. It's a good one. Boom, big buy signal. Oh, getting convinced. See how you really don't want to pay attention to your buy signals too much. Yes, this can go higher, But from the probabilities perspective, which is how I do things here, I understand if you do things a little differently. From the probabilities perspective here, I would say this buy signal is wrong for now. It's wrong for now. I need to see more structure. Doesn't mean it's wrong all the time or it's wrong even right now. It could be right in the future, right? So we could see some kind of pullback like this. That buy signal stays intact, and then boom, it starts to head upward. So I would just say that about the buy-sell signals on here. 30-minute looks like this might roll over now. Now we're seeing some downside. Let's see if that 5 minutes confirming anything yet. Still hasn't confirmed that downward momentum. But you'll notice up here, what did the RSI do first? It got out of overbought territory. So the RSI confirming a little bit of downside here before the MACD. Now the MACD crosses. You can be confident in that move. Maybe just play it to the trend line. If it breaks that trend line, maybe I take a little bit of profit here. See it go a little lower. I can take profit at this low if I would like. So this was a move I sort of scaled into seeing these little red bars. Any red bar I saw that would be possibly breaking through the 5, just scaled in a little bit here. But like I said, guys, I have time. I have time for this hedge to play out as well. We don't like to take things unless we have some expiration time. What do you make of the up move in the dollar? Well, the dollar's been beaten down for a long time, actually. Well, not a long time, right? It's been hanging out at lower levels. What did we say it would react to? You got like really, we said this is where it's going. Okay, there it goes. It's there. Now you have potential divergences down here. You're still a little bit like this isn't a huge breakdown. You're still kind of flagging like this if you see it. So not necessarily any crazy kind of breakdown or break up. I mean, yes, there are big swings in this for sure, but it's a 2-hour chart and it trades after hours. So what I would pay attention to here is I think we're going to maybe see another upward move in the dollar. And then I would pay attention up in this area because we might get the daily to roll up for just a little bit or stay rolled up. Look at that. It's stayed rolled up. So as of right now, I think if I was trading or if I was looking at the dollar, I would trade it like Bitcoin. I like my 4 hours for Bitcoin because it has some more time behind it. So the shorter time frames can be wonkier. Okay, 4 hour. What is it? It beat down to the center line, curls up, positive territory. Another big move, divergence. That's probably the moment we get really bullish. Right? When everyone loses hope after maybe the market crashes down a little bit more, that's when we get bullish. Something right here, UVXY. Look at that drop off. Oh my gosh, if you played the divergence here, UVXY looked so good. Let's go to the Sapaya. I'd love to see a 2-hour divergence or even a 30-minute right by positive territory right here. All right, so now we're probably confirming, right? Nope, not yet. We need another 5-minute bar. Now, one thing to note here is we always want to pay attention to how we can get screwed. How we can get screwed. How can we get screwed here? If we remain above these moving averages and use the daily as support at this point. So look for a reaction here. If that happens, be cautious. Now, it doesn't mean we can't see that reaction and then pull back down later. So just be willing to be scaling in still at this point. I'm not playing a day play. I don't have 0 DTE or anything like that. But what I would say from here is make sure this is confirming. Make sure we're breaking through this level. If you want to hold longer, make sure you're breaking through this trend. If you want to hold even longer, okay, make sure you're breaking through this low. If you want to hold longer, make sure you're not approaching this by the end of the day, because this might be where you take some off the table and then you can play with house money the rest of the time throughout the tomorrow. Yeah, there's some rejections that are going to happen from this area. Remember, we have this marked off. You guys don't think these moves are powerful. This today alone is like seeing it react straight up to the monthly. That's a big resistance at this point. Now, it's a great cup to close, right? It's a great cup to close. You probably say the only better place to create that cup is 428. 428 right at these highs, you base out around that level and the week in that weekly expected move, something like this. And then next week you come out and you just rip. So as of right now, a little bit of selling coming in, but nothing really confirming too much to the downside. You're still well into positive territory. So still a good likelihood you're going to see something like this take place by end of day. So, or even just do this for quite some time, scoot back up. But risk to reward, at least based on the weekly expected moves from the options market, upside looks limited. But if you're not looking at the weekly expected moves, then you'd say upside looks okay. TFC. For a second, my cord was in the way. I thought that said KFC. I was like, ooh, KFC. Big 5-minute divergence at this point. So this is a strong move. And if you're in this to the call side, sometimes I do like to use a 5-minute to see the divergences if they're getting close to negative territory. This one right here, I would probably think about taking profit. You're probably going to see a 15-minute going ballistic. You see the 15-minute divergence, very, very overbought at this point. You're due for a pullback. You could probably pull back to 37.50. If you wanted a deeper one, maybe you go all the way down to like 36.81. It kind of lines up with this end here. Some good points of support here around. Actually, 36.66 looks really, really good. Any thoughts on nvidia? I think nvidia pulls back now. I really do. Now that's just my thought, right? I'm not saying it is. Am I seeing the signals that it is? Not necessarily. I'm not seeing a signal that tells me, hey, it has to drop completely. I'm just seeing a signal that says, hey, a small 5-minute pullback is possible. I'm outside of my weekly range. I can use that as support to head higher here. Now I'm in a sell-off zone, so likely to do something like this. If I break through this, what can I pay attention to? Probably a 30-minute. Look at that. If that curls over into negative territory, we could see some kind of double bottom from that point, if that actually curls over and goes negative here. So that's what I'd pay attention to for NVIDIA. But just know that for the entire week, the option market priced in this move right here. So to the upside. So from here on, you pretty much have a 68% chance to land down from this area. Just note that. Yeah, JS, I hope that was pretty helpful for you. All right. Whoa, SPY starting to head lower again here. I took one last little scale in. Do you know why? Because the option that I chose for the VIX, it actually with this down move got less valuable. So it went down in price instead of up. So I went, oh, okay, I'll take that. And then maybe the real reaction comes. The problem is here, you're seeing this dip down, but you're not necessarily seeing volatility rip to the upside by any means. So we need to see this thing really start to move up. I'd say 15-minute curls up can go positive. That's your first good sign. The other thing you just don't want to happen if you're bullish is this 2-hour to fully curl up and go positive. That means that this pullback might have been all you could get. Now, what am I leaning towards? I'm going to tell you guys what I'm leaning towards right now. I think we do see some kind of pop here for a little bit, and then we see some bullishness later on in the week. I think we see some kind of pop, and then that drops back off by the end of the week because we see a good piece of earnings or some reaction to the data is good, anything like that. So that's what I'll be paying attention to going forward. V-shaped top would be a classic bull trap. It very well could. I mean, this, according to this right here, this is the end of our bounce. I mean, at least for now. So if we wanted to bounce higher from here, well, you notice this, the 30-minute is still positive, okay? So if we do see a bigger pullback, that would be okay. And then we end the end of the week, maybe something like this. We end the end of the week something in here, or even breaking out at the end of the week would be a better sign. Going up towards these levels early on in the week is usually not the best sign. Now, a lot of the time before I do take a trade, I wait for it to actually get outside of it, right? But right now we're seeing these types of things happen to where it could. And I have the availability of the available time, right? So if this wanted to do this and then curl back up, get towards this zone, create another point of divergence, perfectly fine with me. I'm slowly scaling into a short position at this point. Start scaling back into my swing short position, May 10th expiration. Hey, well, I wish you all the luck. And I'm glad that you have a date that is a little bit out there. I'm glad you have a date that's a little bit out there. It means you don't care about a little upside move. You don't care about that, and you can have stops in place. So if this was to break down like this, well, I could put a stop right at this level here, see that react up, stops, get back into the move if I see it again. Is the VIX making a head and shoulders on the hourly? Well, we can take a look. Let's look at what you're seeing here. I would say a head and shoulders is less likely to form here, more likely to form somewhere around 15. So this is where 15 becomes very, very important. So we've been talking about this. Remember, this is pretty damn negative too. So if we do see this come into play, right, 15 gets tested. Well, we could see a reaction from there and then see that breakdown. But you usually want to see similar things happening on the SPY. Okay, so could a head and shoulders be forming on the SPY? This is what will help us see if we're seeing things correctly. You don't just want to do the technicals on the VIX. Now for the SPY, because the VIX trades a little, it opens up a little bit longer, right? A little more time in it. Let's just look at a 30-minute. Well, according to this, technically you would like that head and shoulders to be forming right now for the VIX. Not necessarily forming right now for the VIX, but I think we could form it soon. So if the VIX sees some more drop-offs, we see these signals at the same time, we can see some good buying up from that area, see the VIX drop off. So pretty much with volatility, I think there's two options here. And even if we get a pop here, I think these two options are very, very good, right? And we've talked about them a little bit. Either we get a reaction up from the 200, and it's like game over. So pretty much you're going to get a reaction from here or a reaction down at this gap fill. And that is my overall opinion on this, is 15 or 13. 15 or 13 is where we're going to see the next reaction. Now, we could remain at that level for a bit, right? When we go down to 13, we kind of do this for a little bit, and then boom, that could happen. So it's pretty much 15, 13, 12, 12 are the three levels I'll pay attention to. And I'll look if we're curling up or have divergences on the SPY at the same time as the VIX and things like that. As right now, you see the bullish sentiment here still holding firm. So what does this tell me? Okay, well, we need to pay attention to whether or not we're going to see some kind of rejection here. We're slowing down, but you see it as consolidation. So I have to be open to how I can get screwed. This going up, put a stop here probably at this point. So I can put a stop in. And all right, so now we're just chilling, right? If this wants to go up, all I know is, hey, I can just get into this move in another point here, just to give myself a little bit better price, right? So if this wants to do something like this, curl back up, I can get stopped out. I can see this move happen, then I can scale back into the move at this point. I'm just using the 5-minute to scale into a 30-minute crossing over type move. I think that this has a good shot to cross over. You've built up towards the center line, which is a great sign. The 2 hour is actually curling up. That's a good sign. But you just don't have a lot that's telling me, hey, this is going to go higher because we're approaching those weeklies. But I can get stopped out of that move. And if something forms in the future, I'm perfectly fine with, losing 5% or something like that and then playing something going on in the future. Excuse me. Technicals on the VIX is hard. That's why you'll hear me talk a lot about what is something else doing while the VIX is doing it. What is the VIX doing while the SPY is doing it? If the VIX is closing a gap and showing it wants to curl up on a 2 hour while the SPY is hitting a weekly expected move with a 30-minute divergence, that means something to me. Now, if the volatility is just curling up, I can still pay attention to that, but is the SPY curling down? So it's kind of like you got to watch two things at once, in my opinion. You think big tech earnings will be the next catalyst down? Here's what I think. You want to hear what I think? I think we get maybe some bad earnings early on in the week as we are approaching the weekly expected move. Now, note, this is all just thinking based on the expected moves, right? We're approaching the upside early on in the week. That would tell me what earnings are we getting tomorrow. Tesla, did Visa already come out? Visa, right? We get that one soon on Wednesday. So this one here, Tuesday after hours. So on Wednesday, we'll get the reaction to this. We're building up pretty good. Tesla, what's it doing? Building up pretty good. What could happen here? 30-minute goes towards the center line, rolls over. Yeah, you got some kind of divergence, but not on the RSI at the same time. So what if Tesla's really weak? Now, I'm not saying it has to be. I'm just saying based on how we're reacting to the upside of these weekly expected moves, some kind of bad news could pull us down according to the technicals and the momentum dying out. If we see any kind of bad news, the sentiment can shift here. We could see a pullback. So what I think is going to happen is we get some bad earnings early on in the week. Boom, that pulls down. We get some pretty good or okay earnings later on in the week, and then we react to a positive GDP report again. But if I see some structure down here, I will be paying attention if that 30-minute rolls over, just because it's in positive territory. So if we do see some kind of sudden drop to either test this low or go make a new one, this divergence is going to look juicy. Look at that. It'll look just like that. Did I figure this out today? How to block literal monkeys. Let me type it on Google. How to block apes and other primates from my YouTube stream. Wow, there's actually a video on that. Other people are annoyed by you too. That's crazy. God damn. I thought it was just me. Wild. That looks flaggy right now, by the way. Another upward move could be happening soon. Sorry, I'm working on something for a second. You guys can keep chatting, though. I'll look at the chat here in a moment. Make sure you're liking and subscribing out there. If you're not subscribed already, hit that sub button. And I think we have 82 likes. Let's get that bad boy to 100. To 100. Bring like... Man, I gotta change my system here. This is not working out. Podcast. Oh, it's because it's like not connected to my stream. Okay, we'll figure that out some other time. We'll just keep focusing on the charts. AMC is trash, 60% down since January. Yes, that is some BS, dude, trying to tell you that AMC is going to go to 1,000 again. If you think that market makers are dumb enough to let it happen again, then, and I say let it, if it ever starts to happen, they're just going to be in the move and you're going to probably make them a bunch of money and they're just going to rip it away from you one day. This is kind of looking bear trap-ish, sitting on my hands. This is looking like it's flagging at this point, right? We have the divergence here. Remember, the Qs don't have that divergence, okay? And the Qs aren't towards that weekly expected move. So we could see one more upward push so the Qs can get there. But at this point, I'm just saying we could see this fool around for a little bit throughout the middle of the day and then see that reaction up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give us a breakdown for the day and make sure that as I'm giving this breakdown, if you like the way that we're looking at stocks and you want to learn about these indicators, the course is only $149 for the next 12 days, okay? $149.99 for the next 12 days, okay? So I encourage you to click the link in the description if you're looking at taking a course. That's very valuable and at a very good price. A lot of people talking about how it's good for them. So let's do some technical analysis and then think about if you want to try to learn how to see stocks this way. Okay, now we are going to do this on a 5-minute for now. We obviously know this is a good upward move. Where could that resistance come in? Well, something we teach on the course, the weekly expected move right here. Okay, so the weekly expected move, we teach you why these are important, why they are important to the price action, and how often, what the percentages are that we remain in this area. It's pretty good. So 68% chance we do land in here. We talk about it even further in the course. Right now, you are outside of the daily expected move. So that tells us that we have a 68% chance to land back in this red line here. So this is where we're saying, if you see something like this, not looking very good, but we could get that reaction up. What that would do is allow us to maybe get a triple divergence and then see that drop off. Now, from this area, we have to be careful. We do have a lot of earnings coming out, but as we do approach this early on in the week, it's really leaning towards some kind of pullback, maybe even to something like 495 before we actually get the next reaction up. So what can I pay attention to? 30 minutes. If this 30-minute curls back down and then curls back up into positive territory, we can see a positive move. Apex, how is it a bear trap? Everything is green. I think he means maybe in the very short, like minute time frame or something. But if he's saying bear trap, this is more of like you'd get some kind of bull trap here. Maybe it's ripped away, and then you get a bear trap down here, and then that goes up. So all we have to do here, pay attention to the 30-minute. If that crosses over with the little 5-minute divergences you're getting, okay, if that crosses over, it goes negative, well, we do have that opportunity to test this low if we can take out this area right here. But if that just curls over for a brief moment, curls right back up, okay, this is maybe a lower high moment. So or higher low moment. So 15-minute here might be good to watch as well if you're thinking this could head higher, which it very well could. I would like to just see a divergence down at these lows, a test of that low first. But as of right now, if the 15-minute curls down, just look for that bad boy to curl back up. That's all you have to do from now on for the rest of the week. If this is going to remain positive, curls up, positive territory, positive move. As that starts to go negative, you're going to want to start to pay attention to 30 minutes and be like, okay, is this creating some kind of divergence down in this area? Is it basing out like this? And then I see that 15-minute curl back up and go positive. You just really want to have your head on a swivel this week with earnings. Now we are seeing that upward move for the Qs. It's going to be similar stuff across the board. But this area here is a good V-shape, a good cup and handle area. Maybe we just get some kind of deep handle down to 418, down to this low, right? We see something like this, and then we pop right back up. So really, I'm just saying, if we do get a pullback, you don't necessarily want this to go negative, the MACD to go negative here. You don't really want the RSI to cross that center line, in my opinion, because that means you're taking out this level and you might head lower. If you do head lower, we'd go into our zone down here. So if we head lower, look out, because you could create some kind of divergence. Make sure that is confirming, guys. Like the volatility has been higher. So that means we can see bigger swings. You can wait for confirmations, at least wait for the RSI to get above the center line is what I would say if you're, trading this way. But for now, 5-minute. This one doesn't really have divergence on the RSI and MACD at the same time. Okay, it's just on the RSI. So that leads me to believe, well, this might just be some kind of pullback. Now, what could be happening in the near price action is what if you get a small spike, go up towards that weekly expected move, and then boom, we see some resistance come in. I'm just saying you're approaching this very early on in the week. If we start to get outside that, be cautious going forward. Apple, yes, getting an upward move, but the 30-minute here, still at that center line. Now, you rejected the first time you tried to cross, but you weren't able to make a new high here. So you have to be worried that we aren't flagging or something like that in this area. Okay, so be very careful here. The 30-minute is by the center line. We could just see that roll down and then create a divergence in the future. So I'd be very, very careful taking upside here until I see some more structure. So by more structure, what am I meaning? Well, until I see maybe a 15-minute curl back up. Okay, 15-minute curls up here. It's right by the center line. Maybe this is a big move. And then if I'm in that move, well, I'd say big move, take profit, look for it to do the same thing again. Look for this to go like that. Look for it to get close to the center line, go back up again. It will be very, very simple if this remains in a positive trend. And that's kind of why I'm not leaning towards it. I think we're actually going to see some kind of downside move that is the real bear trap. Tesla moving forward, this one too, 15-minute, look for that to curl over. Look where it is. It's right by negative territory. And if I switch to a 30-minute, it's going to be a little bit deeper into negative territory still. That's where we were talking about. It's going to take a lot of effort to get back up. So earnings though, earnings is a 50-50 flip. We're going to get that reaction tomorrow morning. So this is going to be a little bit like, hey, maybe just don't trade around this, because Tesla's been flushing. So what's going to happen if it gets bad numbers? It's going to flush. And if it's going to get good numbers, well, Tesla's been beat down for a long time. So what's going to happen? It's going to see a huge reaction up. So it's like you're stuck in a 50-50 flip. You're betting red or black. That's not something I do. I like my probability, so I am not trading around Tesla, even though the momentum looks like it could shift back up. I'm not playing around with it. What I can look for are some weekly expected moves or anything like that, right? I can go over to Tesla, see if it's at its weekly. It's not. It has plenty of room to the upside, but that being said, it has plenty of room to the downside as well. So just be careful in this area with Tesla. Its earnings is not something you should mess with too much. Amazon, this making an upward move, right? Making a good upward move. I want to see where that thing's landed. It's got some room to the upside here. So you just want to pay attention. Could the 30-minute roll over into negative territory? If that happens, we are going to see it probably test this low, make a new one, right? When we roll over in negative territory, a lot of the time, pretty much like 90% of the time, you're going to test the low. And then some more of the time, you're going to make a new one. So you pretty much have a good chance if this rolls over to come and test this low, make a new one. And that's where you can pay attention to weekly expected moves and things like that. But for now, you're seeing some upside. Could we go into a short time frame here and see? Well, look at that. We got a big divergence right there. So if you are trying to go long on Amazon, just be careful. You are doing some cup and handling here, but you need that confirmation up. If this 5 minutes starts to roll over, then you're confirming a triple divergence, and that is not going to be a good thing. You will start to roll over the 30-minute, and we're going to go test this low. But if we can break through this strongly and just get rid of all of this, get rid of this divergence, right? See this just go. That's where you can start to be a little bit more bullish and then start to just kind of swing this thing up. NVIDIA, this is one that you guys probably really want to talk about. 5 minute here for NVIDIA. The reason we're paying attention to a 5 minute is because it's early on in the week and we're outside of the weekly expected move. I just want to be clear with that. We actually used it as support right here to now head higher. Remember, these zones that were support can turn into resistance. So at this point, now you're creating some little 5 minute divergence here. Sure, take it with a grain of salt. But if those prove to be right and cross through this trend, what can we look at? A 30 minute. A 30 minute still it is getting positive, right? It's getting a little bit positive, but it's pretty much right at that center line. So if we see any weakness in this area and see some kind of sell-off, you can curl over on the MACD. What could happen from there? This is pretty V-shaped, so it could make a higher low. But at this point, you would say curls over negative territory, test the low. Test the low, maybe even go make a new one. That's where we would pay attention to our downside weekly expected move, possibly. So I'm just saying, I think an upward move is coming, but I think this first one might get faded, and then the real one comes over the next week or two. AMD is another one seeing a strong move up. It has a little bit of room for some upside, I believe. Let me double check on that really quickly. Gmail, oh, well, no, that's not what I wanted. Why'd I go to my email? All right, weekly ranges for AMD. I took it off my trading list. It just hasn't been good to me. So it seems like I get stopped out every time I trade AMD, so I'm just not doing it. You have a little bit more upside here. Okay, so you do have a little bit more upside for AMD to move a little bit higher. But I would say now is the time to be like, okay, if I see that curl down, though, what's going to happen? Maybe I create some kind of double bottom or even divergence at that point. So I would just be cautious here, as this looks like, you know, it's at a point where it either has to get bullish pretty quick or it has to roll over. So if it rolls over, we can react and maybe take it down to this low. That's what I would say on the 30-minute there. Meta, curling up, similar story, right? We're starting to see that fade towards that center line. No real divergences here, just one on the RSI that says, hey, some kind of bounce is coming, but most likely it's just a pullback and we're going to keep selling off. Okay, now it's pullback. Let's see if we keep selling off. So if this 30-minute crosses down, where is it going to be? Negative territory. Boom. Maybe we go negative right before earnings, and then boom, we see that reaction with earnings, which is Wednesday after hours. So by Wednesday, we could get some good data. And I think Meta, Google, those are going to be the more important ones to watch. Tesla, sure, it's okay, but I think at the end of the week, you know, Thursday and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pretty much like Thursday, Friday are going to be the most important as far as earnings go. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the analysis. It's going well. It's going well. But I know we're seeing a lot of similar things, but this is how things base out. And when it looks similar, it means, hey, I can look at multiple stocks and maybe Microsoft makes the downward move, crosses over in the MACD. I can play it down to here. Amazon doesn't do that. Okay, it's going to maybe go higher. So right now, looking for Microsoft, if that's going to break down. Well, maybe we want to look at a shorter time frame. Let's do that for fun. Well, do we see any divergence? No. So we could actually see another upward move, but we do have the RSI saying we need some kind of pullback at this point. So we are getting that pullback. Could we see another 5-minute move up? Yes, we can, and then see if that's ripped away. And then curls over that 30-minute. That would be pretty telling that Microsoft is going to go test this low down here, or at least test this one right here since it's pretty positive. 400 could be important. Those whole numbers, you know. Going back to the 30-minute, though, you just see it's built up a lot. So you have a lot of room here to make a divergence. That's why I'm going to say if this does break down, hey, look out. You may be the fake out. This may be the actual bear trap while people get excited and say, all the earnings, like imagine this, the earnings tomorrow come out, or the earnings tonight come out. They're all bad. Everyone goes, oh, all the earnings are going to be bad. And then at the end of the week, we get good earnings and we get good data. So just be open to that. Google pushing higher and higher here. This is one where I took a little bit of profit on. I just made like 20% real quick. I just don't want to play with too much upside as the SPY and the Qs are hitting its weekly expected move. Now, Google's a little bit of a different story. Crosses up, positive territory, and now we're seeing an upward move. I would really pay attention to Google making some kind of divergence up here. I'm not saying Google has to have good news. I'm just saying if it pulls back, I'd feel more comfortable with that good news coming in. God, I need to fix my system so I can block you. You are so annoying, and nobody ever should buy AMC. Thank you. That's my, hey, I don't, right, we're learning on this channel, but my stock advice here, I'm not an advisor, but if you want to listen to me, it would be, hey, don't buy AMC. It is a failing company, and if you want to invest long-term and make money long-term and not be part of the 90% of people that lose money, you probably shouldn't be messing around with stuff like AMC. You're an ordinary ape who is very annoying and always spams the position that they have. Let me guess, you're long on AMC and you want other people to buy it so that you can get rich and then sell later on. It is kind of a sick thing to do, my friend. Now, Netflix, this actually had a big breakdown with its earnings. It produced good numbers, but it said it's not giving subscriber data. But you could say maybe that mixed with the sentiment from the end of last week was involved, and then now we're seeing an upward move. So that upward move we could see happen, but let's see if that rejects from here, right? If this kind of gets ignored and is like, hey, yeah, maybe the sub count's not that bad. It's going to be okay. SMCI, we'll go over that real quick. Seeing a good upward move here. And yeah, if you guys are just holding AMC and you're not annoying, I'm not like by any means coming at you or anything like that. I just don't think you should spam telling people to buy something anywhere ever. Now, SMCI, this is a good move. And you're caught in between two zones. But I would just say this for SMCI, you're right by that center line. You have no divergence here to hold you up from this very strong downward move. The likelihood of seeing a double bottom before it comes up is pretty high here, guys, and I just wanted to point that out. Now, you could see a double bottom and then see that rise up before earnings, and then we'll have to talk, but for now, that's what we're looking for. Has the VIX rolled around at all? The answer here, no, it hasn't. It really, really hasn't. This has not rolled around. Now, it does have some 15-minute divergence here that might try to confirm. And I know that the SPY is showing those 5-minute divergences. So we do have two things happening at the same time here for the VIX, which leads you to believe, hey, there's going to be some kind of pullback in the SPY. Even if it sees that positivity, some kind of pullback in the SPY. Okay, and we're going to go back to the SPY after looking at this. But if the 15-minute can go positive, that's your first sign, hey, the volatility is starting to scale up again. All right, let's go into the SPY real quick. And Tiffany, I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah, the emotional side of the market is one of the most difficult things. It really is, the psychology of the market. And that's why it's like, I'm still getting used to streaming to where things look like ass, right? Everything's crashing. And I'm the one saying like, hey, there's probably a bounce coming. And then everything goes up and everyone gets bullish. And then I go, well, there's probably a pullback coming, which is what's happening now. The thing is, though, if the SPY wants to hold out here for the rest of the day, now we'll get some new daily expected moves. We actually could see that pop up and then fade by the end of the day to get us into this zone. So I think this zone still might be important in this push here. I would pay attention, though, if by end of day we do something like this and then you see that fail back down. This right here is all the options market priced in. So for the SPY, it's looking like, hey, if I'm going to see bullishness, I'm going to need to retake some moving averages. Right now, I'm only retaking the 5. I can still get rejected by the 20. So on the daily scale here, you need this daily to roll up and probably see something crazy happen this week and just see some blowout earnings, and then we can go to all-time highs. Is that going to happen? Well, Netflix gave great earnings, but just said, hey, we're not giving sub data anymore. And boom, the crash. So this right here, my view on Netflix is I really think that it's going to curl back down. I'll go back over it here in a moment, but this reacting up wouldn't surprise me, and then we see that fail. So I would just pay attention to where this 20 is. If you're able to retake everything, then we can talk and get bullish. Then we can talk and get bullish, right? We can say, hey, this is curling up, positive territory, big move coming. Like, I'm not going to ignore that by any means. Let's go back to Netflix just for a brief moment. Showing you on the daily side here, the fact that, what did we do? Well, we came out, we touched our point we were paying attention to for, ow, my finger hurts from clicking the delete button. 543.31. I don't know why I was using my ring finger to do it, and I never do that. Okay, so what could happen here? Well, usually we get some relief, and what do? We test the 5. So the 5 is sitting right at, as of today, 580.88. Okay, so 580.88. What's happening as we approach 580? Let's just say 580 and say maybe this one right here. Okay, so this 50 on the 30-minute here. Well, what's happening right now as we're approaching it? Ooh, we're starting to get towards that center line. So this is going to be a moment to really pay attention if we curl down and go negative, because that means you're probably going to test this low if you curl over on the 30-minute. So could that happen right now? The answer is yes. You have divergence across the way here on the RSI in the near price action for the 5-minute. Now you need this to roll over and go negative, and you're still very high up. So there is actually potential for one more push, maybe to get to that 20-day move or 5-day moving average before you break down. So just pay attention to anything like this happening. But if you see this actually go negative, that's where I'd say that 30 minutes going to start crossing. Microsoft on the daily does look bearish. This is the one that was hinting to us all the time about the triple divergence. This is what we saw on Apple to tell us about that bounce, that big bounce, that big all-time high bounce that was coming in October. This is what we used. I'm thankful if you are a part of the channel and you're still watching, and you've been watching since October when we called that bottom. And then later on we said, yeah, now all-time highs coming in. But I wanted more structure in the move. Now that we have this very upward move, we're starting to see signals like these, like this right here, which is a triple divergence, which is the exact same signal that Apple gave us for the bottom. Now Microsoft giving you that for the top. So Microsoft, yeah, you can see an upward move. Does it create another point in divergence? That's possible. Earnings, anything can happen. Or does it create a lower high? Okay, well, what do I want to pay attention to? 2 hour. Can it go positive? At this point here, do we have enough here? If we're just going to V-shape and head up, we're going to have to see some good earnings right away. But as of right now, 30-minute could roll down into into negative territory. I'm sorry. And this would be, I would say, a little bit better structured. This is something that would convince me to possibly get into a trade. I see tapering. I see us move up. I see a divergence. I find an entry point. We take back the moving averages. These are starting to curl up, so this might be brief. But that's what I would pay attention to for Microsoft. I still think an upward move is possible, but I think a downward move might come first, and then we see that reaction. I will after this. Happy Friday. Thank you for telling me that. I used to use Twitch, so I'm not necessarily used to it. And I had moderators when I had Twitch because I had like 300 people watching me every day. But I just want to say this, leave off with this. The SPY is heading up towards an area where we can see that resistance come in. I just want to be very clear about that. If we are going to see something crazy happen, that's perfectly fine. I have my stop in place above me. I have an area up here where I can pay attention to any other divergences forming. I can trade like water and be perfectly fine in this market. Head and shoulders, SPY, 5-minute. Well, if you're talking about this, we've been talking about this happening. Right? This, and this. Not necessarily, we weren't looking at it on 5, we were looking at it on like a 30. So what I'd like to see if we're going to head up here is a pullback, right? I want this to maybe even react all the way up to here. We could pull all the way down to something like this and then see that reaction up. We could pull down to something like this and then see that. So I just want to make sure this 5 minutes actually going negative. So if I want to take a position here, play some kind of downfall, I just want to make sure that's going negative if I want to continue to hold that. If that just rolls up and goes positive, I bet your money I'm going to be selling out of that move. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's stream. I really, really do. I want to thank you guys for coming out. Make sure if you did like that breakdown, if you want to think about stocks the way that I do, check out that course, guys. It's $149 for the next like 12 days, right? May the 4th be with you is when I'm taking it off of there. I just think that as volatility is starting, we're getting some big swings. It's going to be a little bit harder to trade in because of those big swings. We got to be a little quicker. And I think you just need some skills. So go check that out. It's down in the description if you want to grab it. Patreon if you need those ranges. Really appreciate it. But you guys know, I just really appreciate you guys coming by, talking about stocks with me, like and subscribe and doing all that good stuff. And we will be live again tomorrow. I'm sorry there was no YouTube video last night, but I just wanted to help out with baby girl. She was a little rough yesterday, had some tummy issues, and mama needed a break, so dad gave her a break. Thank you guys so much for joining. Really appreciate it. If you're part of the Patreon, make sure you're joining that little chat that's in there so you can post your wins or ask questions or just chat back and forth with other people in our community about stocks. I think it's a very great opportunity once people start to use it. So thank you guys so much. Luke, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the course. Appreciate everything you guys always say and how you guys, talk very highly about the course and the Patreon and things like that. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading for the rest of the day. Trade like water. It's really going to help you out in a market like this. And I just hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on YouTube later. Peace. I tried to include a VWAP into mine, and I just didn't feel like it added a ton of value to mine. But I do know other traders that use it and use weekly expected moves. They are more day traders, is what I noticed. More day traders use the weekly VWAPs and things like that. I think it's what's his name? Figuring Out Money. If you like VWAPs, type Figuring Out Money.
how much car insurance costs